Oh, yeah, right, we didn't really poll them. That's why it's on here, so that we can poll them on the spot, right?
25th, yes. I'm back on the 26th. Talking June, right?
All right, we should get, we're all set. Okay, I'd like to call the Village of Vernon Board meeting to order. Today is Thursday, June 18th, with call to order and Pledge of Allegiance, moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Roll call and open meetings law compliance check.
President Fortner.
Present.
Trustee Slaney.
Present.
Trustee Weldy.
Present.
Trustee Mahalik.
Present.
Trustee Dashik.
Present.
Mr. President, note for the record that your board, that's a you have a quorum of your village board. Mr. Chairman, the agenda Mr. President, the agenda was posted inside and outside the Vernon Town Hall on the Town of Vernon's website to the media and other businesses within the Village of Vernon. You're in full compliance with the open meetings law.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is public comments. Are there any public comments? Okay, no public comments. We'll get it right into the.
We all got public comments, I believe.
Oh, I didn't see anybody wave their hands or, okay. Yes, sir. State your name. I know your name.
Jeff Millies. On the agenda tonight is the mileage reimbursement for Lorraine Dashik when she was treasurer. Here we are again with a new board. The situation comes up. This mileage was first submitted back in December 6th of 2018, and that mileage was submitted all as one-way mileage. The reason why it was denied back then, because the mileage submitted was for a 3.6 mile trip, when the correct mileage should be 3.4, one for halfway. That's why it was denied. So then, on August 15th of 2019, the mileage was resubmitted, but as round trip with the correct 6.8 mileage, but she made it round trip again. And here we are again today, being resubmitted again as a round trip mileage. I agree that she is entitled to some money. What this amount should be, I believe it should be, as she originally submitted in her first claim, as a one-way trip, but at the correct mileage of 3.4 miles. You know, this is the third board she's tried to get this passed through, waiting for a change. It's getting kind of ridiculous. We've heard many excuses from her why the mileage is the way it's been. She feels she's entitled to the full 7.2. Or the board wouldn't approve round trip, but in reality, the mileage should be what the mileage is. Even though it was wrong in the past, it shouldn't stay that way. You know, if she was undercharging the mileage, I feel she would expect the town to reimburse her the difference. You know, so I don't know if you have the data here from the previous minutes, but look at what was submitted back in December of 18 as all those mileage being one way, not round trip. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Moline? Yep. I know your name. Could you state it for the record? Thank you.
Ed Moline, South 67 West 24385, Skyline Avenue. I'm here tonight having listened to the 612 meeting and have the following comments which are factual and could be substantiated. Regarding the clerk treasurer combined position, I wish to remind everybody it was decided at the last town meeting to wait until both the present clerk treasurer and the previous treasurer provided factual numbers to validate their opinion of whether it was proving economical or not. I'm told the clerk treasurer did provide hers as requested, but the past treasurer has not. I can only assume from that she could not factually support her figures used at the meeting. Tonight, I'm informing the trustees, based on what I heard about a charter ordinance, that if it is voted in, I will immediately start the petition you mentioned to have it voted down. I'm requested to be informed what the number of signatures required are. I think Carl said 370 something maybe, and what time frame they're required by. I'd also like to comment on the previous treasurer's mileage issue by stating that the town board was told the reason for multiple trips back and forth to the bank was our residents demanded their tax refund checks right away. This was proven to be false when the town board had to hold a special meeting to sign over a check to a citizen who was desperately needed to pay his mortgage. The check was found along with several others in the drawer of her desk. The checks were dated quite some time earlier. These caused our concerns with the credibility. Another falsehood occurred when the prior treasurer swore not to have taken a document from Tammy Spoon's desk and handed it to Marie Kumashek, Carl Fortner, and Rodell Singer. Fortunately, she was caught on camera doing it, once again bringing her credibility into question. In closing, I wish to inform the public that these trustees that whoever is spreading the lie that I was recalled due to my misappropriation of funds must stop before legal action is taken. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further public comments? Okay. Just taking a note here. Okay, now we will start with number 5A. On the agenda, Town of Vernon's incorporation to the Village of Vernon. Our certificate is somewhere in the room.
It's down over there.
And this item is on the agenda just as an announcement. Citizens' comment was made, we had it, whoops.
Don't drop it.
Here's our certificate, everyone. Here it is, everyone. And we will have it on the wall soon. We did have an organizational meeting June 12th, last Friday, and set the election for the village board. Since everyone was elected to a two-year term, three of us, and then the others were elected last April, what we did was set the election and get us on an April election, a smooth transition. And the entire board will be up for election in April. The village president, a two-year term, two of the trustees, two-year terms, and the other two, a one-year term, and then we'll be staggered going forward with two-year terms. So we kept it just as we were doing it in the old town. So I wanted to make that announcement and let everyone know about the June 12th. There was a citizen comment about the charter ordinance. It is on the agenda, mostly to set a date so that it can be done at a meeting a special meeting where that's all we talk about. It's going to take a while to hash that charter ordinance out, and that's why it's on. There are, as mentioned, abilities for the citizens to ask for a referendum on ordinances, including the charter ordinance, and that is all in, I think it's section, I wrote it down somewhere, it's 9.20 of the statute, and the petition requirements are in 8.40, I think. And the number of signatures and everything will be in those statutes, how to do your petition.
I can look at it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's no secret. We talked about it on June 12th. So that's, unless there's any other discussion on that, that was a point of, I just put on the agenda as a point of announcement. Next up are the beer and liquor licenses. What I would propose to do here is, there's several that are renewals. There's a liquor license that is new, bartender's license that is new, that people are here, that we amend the agenda to have them be first, and then they can, if they want to stay, they can stay, otherwise they can go. And then after that, our fire department's here. We do have a report on there for COVID-19 compliance. I would hope that we would amend the order of the agenda to push them up so that they can provide their report and then also leave. Mr. Millies, are you here for your liquor license? Do you want to have anything to say, or are you going to? Okay. Otherwise, we could push you up too. And then we can come back and do the liquor license. Is there any objection to the reordering by the board? Okay. So first off, we have a Class B beer, Class B Village of Vernon liquor license for Michael Alex, doing business as the Halverson House LLC on County Line Road. And we did receive some information today as well, late submitted. So if you flip to that, and the attorney specifically on that, this is a new license. There are different laws regarding new licenses. The village board will need to decide what, if any, conditions precedent and subsequent should be placed in the license, since reasonable conditions can be placed on new licenses. A particular concern is the description of the premises. Once a license is approved, it's very difficult to modify. And final action should be taken before July 1st, because the license is going into effect July 1st. So, during the attorney's review, when we looked at the license, a couple of things. One is, they applied for the license while we were a town, so the Attorney Macy said, yes, that's okay to say Town of Vernon, because that's what we were when it was applied for. And that applies to all of them. I think all of them did that.
Yeah.
The question is I'm looking at the license application here. The question is, under number 9, which is premises descriptions, describe the building or buildings where alcohol beverages are to be sold and stored. They listed it barn, grading, home and grounds, and the question raised was what is meant by the grounds, and there they submitted an email today, which you've all got and now you're reading. So in my discussion with Attorney Macy, a reasonable restriction would be to limit it to where they're actually going to operate their business. I raised a question about, well, what about parking lots? I mean, why are you serving liquor in a parking lot? They've excluded it, I do believe, on this map that and the driveway, or at least the big parking lot, although that big parking lot has not been approved, and that is the subject of a hearing, 2 public hearings on Monday. And so, and maybe we'll have the Alex's come up for a question, if you might. What if the location or the size of the driveway changes based on Monday's hearing?
Size of the parking lot?
The size of the parking lot or the location of the parking lot?
Yeah, my main.
I mean, you've, so everybody knows, he's given a document where the area covered by your CU, right, that's been approved and hasn't been issued, is marked with the red dotted line, and the red shaded area is your application for where you
Correct,
can
yeah.
serve, where you can serve your liquor.
Yeah, the main concern that I had is I wanted it to be, I didn't want to show a new site plan and have you say, well, where is this showing up? This is the exact same drawing that was in that original CU approval, showing that same dash line. And again, yes, the parking lot would be excluded if it has to be a separate verbiage to say, excluding the parking lot. The intention was to keep all service and consumption outside of the parking lot, whether it be, depending on the setback. The other thing to keep in mind is the CU includes an offset of 100 feet from any residential property line. We are enforcing that or imposing that on this aspect of it as well. That's why you'll see that that red shaded area doesn't go all the way down to the property line. It's not even within 100 feet of the property line. Again, that could be reflected on an updated drawing, but I didn't want to go and think, well, you're trying to show us one thing, but what was approved is something else. So that was the intent of this.
So it's just, to me, it's just a matter of making sure that, you know, what we're issuing is in agreement with what you've described.
Yeah, and it comes down to, is the liquor license going to give a meets and bounds, a 150 feet northwest from, you know, corner, as far as what a surveyor would do, which is similar to what is done for the red line, versus saying something to the effect of outside of parking, you know, the main parking area. Since that's not set in stone at this point, I think that might be hard to give a meets and bounds description to, but
Yeah, I would
that was the
agree.
intent.
Right, I would agree meets and bounds will be difficult. I was looking at your, what was approved as your CU, hasn't been issued yet, but what was approved to see if there was an area described in the CU that would be, you know, your red line, and then we could exclude all, we could reference the CU, what I was thinking, reference the CU in that area, and then exclude all area within the 100 feet from any residential property line and all parking lots.
Yep, yeah, so make a setback for the residential property and then delineated by the final parking lot
Yeah,
location. That's the intent.
Delineated by the final parking lot as approved or something like that, in accordance with your CU and of course, subject to your issuance of your CU. Because
Yep.
otherwise you wouldn't need it if you're not gonna get your CU issued, which, I mean,
Correct.
it's already been approved. It just needs to be, there's some conditions that need to be finished, that's all. But when I was looking for that, how that was described in the CU, I was having trouble finding it because I would just reference it into the CU, so there wouldn't be any, I don't want any inconsistencies, I don't want any, you know, misunderstandings. And so Mr. Alex, is it in there, is it,
The one point that it references, and I don't know which version I have, but,
I know it's in here, I know it's discussed somewhere in here.
this is under preceding conditions.
Okay.
3A, the petitioner provides a precise conditional use boundary and legal description substantially consistent with the boundary identified in the plans presented to the town of Vernon on August 28, 2019. So that's putting into language to say we have to establish that red dotted line with meets and bounds types of descriptions. That's the only place that's kind of referenced. Everything else is referenced by setbacks to neighboring property lines, those types of things.
Okay, and so that is, what is your reference, 3A,
3A,
minimum
So
lot
preceding
area shall be
conditions.
20? Am I in the wrong 3A? Yeah, hang on.
yeah, under preceding conditions.
Maybe I'm looking in the wrong document. Oh, here, under recommendation, sorry. Okay. Okay, so there is 3A. And then we could say,
With further limitations
with further
being
limitations
within 100
being,
feet of residential lot line and excluding all parking in drive areas.
yeah. And then subject to the issuance of your bread and breakfast and event barn CUs. Everybody, I'm just looking at the board here. Did you everybody follow what we're
Yep.
Yes.
attempting to do in the attorney's comments and what's been applied for?
What was the last line that you and Mr. Alex referred to, that last line, I captured everything, I just want to capture that.
Yeah, and I think it would be, the language from 3A excluding, any necessary setbacks to residential use. Or
Yeah, that would be the
designated-
100-foot.
The 100-foot,
The
correct.
100-foot setback for residential use property
Or primary parking areas.
and
And I think,
parking.
and I would include just, because there is parking throughout the site, if we use just the word parking, someone might say, well, you have some bed and breakfast parking, you have some staff parking. That would create little islands throughout the site that might be hard to be able to define. So if we use the large parking lot as that distinction.
Okay, let's look for a reference to that. I know what you mean. You have like your bed and breakfast, 5 spaces or whatever.
Yep,
it
and then
is.
there's some staff
And
parking up
staff
top.
parking in the
and-
back, right? Is there something that we reference in here that we, in your CU, that we could reference the main parking area is what you're getting at? Unless someone says, no, make them all, even the little ones.
Couldn't the map and narrative that you brought today be an exhibit, Carl, Mr. President, in reference to their actual, attached to their liquor license? 'Cause I don't
Well,
think
but
this
if it
is.
changes though, Mr. Alex's
Yeah,
point
that's-
is if it changes under,
Oh, I see.
then we'd want it, because otherwise we'd be looking at this map, it might not mesh up.
Wouldn't a CU change if,
No, the CU says, let me go back. So I'll just find it now again. Concise, petitioner provides precise conditional use boundary and legal description, substantially consistent, so it could be slightly off. With the boundary identified in the plans presented to the town of Vernon on August 28, 2019. I just didn't want to,
Yeah, so that's that's
I didn't want a
establishing the
little
dash line.
between the two.
Yeah. In my view, someone might be able to argue, I would say the primary guest parking lot, the large parking lot to differentiate, to say, that big rectangle, the one where 73, right now, showing 73 cars park, that area is off limits as far as the alcohol service or consumption. The others, because sometimes they won't be a parking area. As far as maybe the bed and breakfast area isn't parking for that day of event, but it is within that red shaded area, just so there's no ambiguity to say, we have this island that we have to create a fence around, because if someone crosses over that, corner of that parking stall, you're in violation. Not that would necessarily come up, but never know.
is it 73 parking slots?
Yeah,
The
my only
most
concern is
current
what
condition.
if you decide to divide that into 2 parking lots, so which one's primary and, so I was just looking.
Could you lock it into what was presented in August?
Yeah, but what if he changes then,
Would the CU, wouldn't the CU change?
No, not really, I mean,
You say event barn parking lot, because then that wouldn't be your bed and breakfast parking lot, it wouldn't be your vendor parking lot, it would be your event barn guest
well,
parking.
how about if we say all parking lots except for your employee parking lot and the bed and breakfast parking lot?
And we have 2 vendor stalls as well.
Oh,
There are 2
okay.
stalls by the barn itself.
Okay. All right. We're just trying to, I know employee parking, all of this was in the conditional use, I'm pretty sure. The vendor parking and the employee parking and the B&B parking, I'm pretty sure.
Yep.
Was all in here. So we could say all parking
Vendor, employee,
lots except employee, vendor, and bed and breakfast parking as set forth in the CU. You're getting all
got-
this
yep,
for the
yeah,
motion?
I just wanted to lock in what you're gonna say.
All right. Obviously, the concern about the parking lot is the drinking and
Yep.
driving.
Understandable.
Comments?
Is this for serving alcohol, or is this if one of the guests carry alcohol into that area?
Both sales, service, consumption, and storage. We don't want them consuming alcohol in the parking lot either, do we? I mean,
Yeah, and that's why we, from
That's why you carved
operational
it off.
standpoint, we want to keep it separate, whether it be for the liquor license or for our operations.
so we're looking for a motion or further discussion, a motion to. Do you have enough
Yeah,
to say, so
just-
that we
Yeah,
can?
if you want me to restate it and then clarify, it would be a motion by, to approve the Class B beer and Class B liquor for the Alex's at their address, subject to the conditions of the issuance of the conditional permit, and no serving or consumption of alcohol will occur in the large 73 area, or 73 section parking lot of the event barn, with the understanding that the vendor, employee, and bed and breakfast parking may be listed in the use of the may be listed in the use of the liquor license as shown and delineated in the narrative and the letter submitted on June 18th, 2020. I didn't get this, do you want the setbacks, the 100-foot setbacks in there, I mean, that is part of your CU.
Yeah, and I would just question or ask, do we want to say a number if it says 73, if it is a 72-car parking lot?
Yeah.
Is that getting too detailed where all of a sudden we're throwing ourselves into a,
Right.
Right.
you know,
should
we
I
wanted
just-
to make an extra handicap stall, so we lost
I
one,
have a
Or you make it
large parking-
74, you know, you can
or
always
if
go
it's
back.
larger or
I
smaller.
have
Right.
the- I
So
could
why
put
don't why don't we say all parking lots except?
Okay, we could do that.
Yeah, all parking lots
areas
except the employee vendor and bed and breakfast parking lots as referenced in the conditional use.
Yeah.
That would cover
No, you want-
72,
Then he's slicing
74.
and
But
dicing
you,
of it,
you
yeah.
want to have your liquor license applied to the vendor, employee.
Right,
That would,
So
yeah,
we're
so it doesn't
excluding- we're
create a
excluding-
little
right.
island of all
right.
of
We're
those different,
excluding, yeah, we're excluding,
from the restriction.
yeah,
Right.
right, we're excluding it from a restriction.
Okay.
Right, so
So-
that means permitted.
Yep.
Right.
Okay,
And then, and we're referencing, the, that, the 3A, right, not as submitted, not this as submitted, the 3A and the,
I'll need that for their liquor license. What you do, that's part of, I need that for your liquor license? That map?
this map,
I need that for their liquor license.
but we're gonna make it subject to,
And that, but I need that, I don't need your CU, but I need that for eternity.
well, but if we set the description of the premises, barn, granary, home, just as you've listed, and that portion of the property, as set forth in the conditional use, that is the conditional use boundary and legal description consistent with the boundary identified in the plans presented to the town of Vernon on August 28, 2019. If we say it that way, if that's different than the picture, wouldn't that control? That's what I'm getting at. In other words, I don't want this picture to go on into eternity when what is finally approved in his CU is slightly different than the picture
For the CU, not for the liquor license.
for the liquor license. I want the liquor license to match up to the CU if we can.
Yeah, essentially what we need to do is say,
Oh, yeah.
everything within obviously we have what ended up being, I think, a 79-acre parcel. That's already getting sliced down into, I think, just over 7 acres with the red dash line. So we went from 79 to 7.5. Now we need to take that 7.5, cut it down smaller into what is acceptable for this part of our operation, which is the liquor license. So basically we need to say everything inside of that red dash line, except anything within 100 feet is a neighboring parcel that allows residential, which that eliminates the whole driveway to begin with, because a use would be considered someone walking around with a beverage, and the parking, which gets into that 100 foot setback, or gets farther into our parcel. So if that moves to be 100 feet, 75 feet, 50 feet, wherever that ends up being, if that's already created as far as that red dashed line now becomes a blue dashed line to say this is where the liquor license boundary is, that can move based on wherever that parking lot lands. So you have this big parcel, we're making it a smaller parcel with the red dash line, we're creating a new dash line that says this is where alcohol consumption and service can happen, and you do that. I think the most flexible way in that sense is you already have a setback set in place with a 100-foot setback. You're omitting whether that parking lot is in that setback or it's way in the middle of the property. You're gonna create, you know, an island around it, say, this is something we're not allowing consumption or service of alcohol to happen in. That makes sense to me, but.
Yeah, as identified in the CU, as finally determined or identified in the conditional use? Yes, identified and approved. So then that's what we start out with, and we exclude from that any,
So you start with the 3A,
right, we
then
start
you-
with the 3A,
then
we
you
exclude
cite-
out the 100 feet,
then you cite pursuant to item C, that gets you the 100-foot offset, and then you add your own language to be able to say, those are the things that the CU already established. Us as the board wanted, you know, put a further restriction on the main parking lot, whatever word you use for that, the primary parking lot, main parking lot, large parking lot.
well, we'll say all parking lots except.
Excluding, that
Yeah.
would, and that would encapsulate it all.
Do we need legal review for this? To make sure it's done exactly the way, or a chance to write it down?
I just wanna make sure it's right, and we have time, we have a little bit of time, we could do this. We could get the verbiage typed up, get it to the Alex's and the village board, just to make sure everybody's clear.
Yeah, if it's something that doesn't take, you know,
We have a
another
meeting on
meeting.
July 2nd, would that be soon enough?
We need to get
Oh, that's
our
right.
accounts set up.
Yeah, the vendor, the alcohol distributors will call and ask,
Okay,
so they really need,
so we should try to do it tonight.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we have an understanding, would you agree?
Mhm.
Okay, so now we're working on the wording. Okay. So the motion has to start with the original alcohol beverage as applied.
So, you know, the standard verbiage, what we're looking for is the subject.
Subject
To the conditions of the issuance of the.
subject to the issuance of the conditional use permits for the event barn and the bed and breakfast, because it's both.
As identified and approved in the conditional use.
And-
All parking lots, with the exception of.
Well, yeah, and well, what should we say, in the premises, well, the application says grounds, and the grounds, you know, we could use their words, the grounds shall only include the grounds within the precise conditional use boundary and legal description substantially consistent with the boundary identified in the plans presented to the town of Vernon on August 28, 2019, as approved pursuant to, number 3A?
Precedent condition 3A.
Precedent condition 3A in the conditional use permit. Except for, right, except for all grounds within 100 feet from any adjacent property line permitting residential use. I think is that how it's described? I think that's how it's described. And all parking lots except the employee, vendor, and bed and breakfast parking as set forth in the conditional use.
There you go. Yep,
Right.
that should do it.
That sound?
Mhm.
Well, I wish we could have another
Well-
shot at it, so everybody could read it.
Yeah. I think Karen's got most of it, don't you?
your very last line, after, 3A of the conditional use.
And then we're excluding, except for, right?
Yeah, and they got the grounds within the, all the grounds within 100 feet of residential use, and there was a line you said right after that.
And all parking lots,
parking.
yeah, all parking lots
Excluding.
except employee vendor,
and
Okay,
bed and breakfast, parking lots is set forth in the CU.
Yep.
okay. Does that work, Mike?
Mhm.
God, don't ask me to read it back. I'll have it precise, Mike, and those words.
So that, I think, will mesh it up, and as opposed to this map, which might be, not any, I don't want anybody having any foot faults or anything. you know.
Could change.
So I'll make that motion.
Oh, okay.
It wouldn't be right if anybody else did.
I'll second the motion. Or did somebody do it already?
Go ahead, Fred.
Second?
Okay, further discussion.
Do we care how this is policed at all? I mean, is that an issue in conditional use permits?
There is provisions of security in their CU.
Okay, we'll just,
Yeah, the operator is responsible for, enforcing compliance with the licenses and permits that they have.
Right.
And if they don't, then, law enforcement may have to get involved. And,
And the liquor license is an annual review, right?
Yes.
And then
The
the
liquor
CU
lic-
is every 2 years, so
Right,
there's
just gonna-
overlap, so there is oversight.
right, there's oversight for the liquor
because
license
that's what I
every
was
year.
thinking, all of this, we were concerned if something changed on the property. But the liquor license is an annual thing, so every year we could be asking
Well,
that.
except that
This is new.
this is new and it's very difficult to, unless the petitioner agrees to change any of the conditions.
Right. That's why it's
Oh,
very
That's
Okay,
why,
I missed that,
that's
yeah.
why we're spending so much time,
nailing
These
it.
other ones are just.
getting the new ones done properly. The renewals, if we wanna make changes on those,
Yeah.
that's gonna be much more difficult.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
And that was the point Attorney Macy made in his
Yep.
memo, and that's why this one's taking, to
Yes.
hash it out. And it's not that easy because he's not in operation. If he was in operation and all this was set, but it isn't quite set right now.
Can I ask a question? Why is there any liquor being allowed in any of the parking lots? What would the purpose be?
The vendors have to bring the stuff in. I mean, alcohol comes from a
Okay.
vendor into their barn.
Okay, so it's just the mere presence of it in that parking lot that
Yeah,
you're
or for
allowing?
instance, the bed and breakfast parking is in the center of the site, adjacent to the house.
Okay.
So it might not even be functioning as a parking lot at that point.
Okay.
So then, if someone is having, our plan is not to serve alcohol in that area, but if someone is in the grounds on that part of the property, then we become in violation because they're walking across something that they wouldn't even know was a parking lot because it's not being used as a
I
parking lot.
understand.
Same thing with some of the staff parking that's on a driveway pad where, people could be on it and not even know, hey, this is a parking lot.
Okay.
Right, certainly the intent is wherever the parking lot ends up being, whether it's as shown on the map or not, we're not approving where that location is. That's off limits. The smaller parking lots, as represented by Mr. Alex, may not even be used as a parking lot during a particular event. So that's why we're trying to carve it. Yeah, personally, I was concerned about the big parking lot.
I just needed to have clarification why, but that was well said.
Okay, any further discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Is Mrs. Joy Alex here? We can get her in here for her bartender's license, and then you guys, if you want to stay, you can stay, otherwise you can. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, I thought because she was new, we always made them in. Okay, well, she's here. Okay, we'll do yours now. I was informed that you really didn't have to come, even though you're new, because,
You have a clean record, you've been a good girl.
but we will go, shoot you ahead in the agenda to do yours next. Is it everything in
Yes.
order?
Mr. President, all the fees have been paid. The server license has been, the background check has been, everything's in full order and compliance for the town board to approve.
Okay, so, do I have a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
And trustee Solani, that was for Joy Alex, correct, sir?
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. That's it.
Now we got the big guns coming.
Okay, so, as the ordering has been changed, we will now hear from our fire department. Chief Feldy, Deputy Chief Hayes. Yeah, that's right.
Yes, sir.
We last spoke to you gentlemen in the middle of March, and right before they were turning the keys and turning off lights and rolling up the carpet, and at that time, you gave us a report on what your safety protocol was, in particular transporting COVID-19 patients potentially, and so I have it on the agenda. This is our first regular board meeting in person, so we are trying to get back to business in person. You can see that we're all spaced out, and
Some people have a little bit more facial hair.
right. Well, there is a problem getting into the barbers and things, but
Oh, I thought he was talking about me.
so, first of all, any issues to report? I understand when we talked in March, we had our ambulance that we replaced. We put the plastic up and used it for transport. I assume that was the plan. Other communities did the same thing. And we did transport some patients. And I understand that, the people that are tested positive until they are cleared, as long as they're an active case, at least your department knows where those are for future emergency calls, so proper precautions can be taken.
Right. Everything kind of ramped up fairly quickly, obviously. I know we had a meeting with you guys to kind of talk about some stuff. I think that, and Chief Hayes can jump on board, the Waukesha County Fire Chiefs, as a whole, were very, very proactive. We, within probably a week of things really starting to become, or have some concerns, developed basically a COVID task force, comprised of essentially every fire department in the county. There was a lot of dialogue as to how we could work together, what our resources were. There were discussions on the potential of sharing people, because in the beginning of this thing, we were really worried that we were going to lose a lot of people to quarantine, being sick, things like that. So there were a lot of scenarios that were thrown out there, and we looked at and we evaluated that. In theory, had it been as bad as some people were kind of predicting, we could have been short people. I mean, essentially, we would have had no workforce to do the job we had to do. We developed a pandemic card that was going to be used countywide for these types of calls, where each city, each department would have had resources that we would have shared with each other. As you said in your comments, that we had a rig that we utilized as a COVID rig. We never really used it because we didn't need it, but it was ready to go, which was, I think, a very good thing. All four of the chiefs were very involved in the whole scenario, not only from our own department needs, but from a county standpoint. We actually were the ones that hosted all the Zoom meetings for the county. Those started off with being a daily meeting, and then as things started to ramp down a little bit, we progressed to a couple times a week. To this week was our last official regularly scheduled meeting. So now we're on a if we need it, we'll call it, and we can get everyone on board pretty quickly. So there was a lot of great communication. There was a lot of cooperation that was occurring with all the departments for the most part in the county. I think on a regular basis, all but one or two or maybe two departments really weren't in on the daily conference calls. Other than that, everyone was at the table, everyone had an equal voice, and everyone did I thought, a very good job of being able to offer up assistance, develop some plans. We created some work groups that helped work on some different things. And when this all started, they were looking at projections of us running, each ambulance running 20-plus calls a day. This just turning into just a pandemic that the emergency was gonna overrun the resources we had. We had a card set up that had things gotten that bad, we would have triaged and not responded to certain calls based on what was prioritized through the dispatch system. So we had a very good plan, incident action plan put in place at a county level, because we all realized that we were not gonna do this on our own. And if we were gonna try to do it on our own, we were all gonna fail. So we, as Waukesha County Fire Service, really stepped to the plate, and I think had an excellent plan that was rolled into what the county had established. The OC was fired up at the state level and also the county level. So we had resources that we had that were going to be available to us had we needed some stuff. We never had a shortage of PPE at all. Justin Schopius, one of our battalion chiefs, and Chief Hayes were very good about allocating and finding us resources. We had some community resources that came forward and donated us some of their PPE that they weren't going to use because they were being shut down. Woodland Dental gave us some stuff. Granted, it was purple and pink because that's what the girls wear, but a gown's a gown. But we got a lot of support from people within our community and outside our community. Occasionally, someone would drop something off, a box of masks or whatever, and say, "Hey, this is what I have. I don't really need it. You guys need it more than I do." Because the media was telling everyone, "Hey, donate whatever you can because we're short." We had done a little bit of planning from some of the bird flu stuff in the past, so we had some stuff that was in storage and ready to go. So PPE was never an issue. We were also very proactive about creating standard operating guidelines, policies for doing disinfection twice a day during the highlight of it, screening processes for our employees so that they weren't coming in sick. And those are all things that I think we were a little bit ahead of the curve than some other departments. And that was because we had a good core command group that was able to talk to each other. The company officers did a great job of educating their people, screening their people, letting them know what's going on. Because when some of this stuff starts to happen, and unfortunately you listen to the media, you don't really get the true picture or the true story. So we felt it was important to keep our people up to date. And then getting feedback from Waukesha County Communications was vital too, because anytime someone tested positive in our community, we were notified. It was put into the database for the CAD system. It was confidential, but we would have known by looking at our computers and the vehicles that this was a suspected case. Now, with that being said, we treat everyone now as if they have it. We started that from pretty much the onset. Dr. Schultz was very proactive about saying, you know what, don't take someone's word for it. First some of the questions were, were you out of the country, all these different things. Within a couple of weeks, those weren't even pertinent anymore. So Dr. Schultz was a phenomenal resource as well, not only for us, but for the county. And again, I think we operated in a very efficient, safe manner for our people and for the community. And I think that even the people that were unfortunately exposed in our community that we took to the hospital, they got excellent care. And hopefully, as far as we know, we had no fatalities in the township that we know of.
That is correct.
So, all good things.
There were even calls where we were taking in a suspected COVID case and we, standing outside talking to another individual in the house, recommended to that individual that they go get tested because we were seeing from that far away some of the symptoms, the red eyes and some other things of a positive COVID case. And like 3 days later, we got the report that he was positive.
It was quite a learning experience for us. It's something that we kind of talked about and did some tabletop stuff with years ago when the bird flu and all those other things were coming in SARS, but never really materialized. We actually, in the beginning, we were short. We didn't have the ability to really do a good, effective decon of our ambulance. In Big Bend Elementary, the McGuanago School District lended us one of their electrostatic sprayers until we were able to get our own. So again, the cooperation and support from the community was phenomenal. McGuanago School District, you know, obviously said, hey, kids aren't coming to class. You guys need it, you can use it. So we had that for that period where we didn't have our own sprayer. And then finally, probably one of the most unique and rewarding things that came out of this was that we did receive some requests from people in the community to do some what we call birthday drive-by for little kids, essentially, who had a birthday and couldn't celebrate it. They're kind of getting screwed. So we were very proactive about, as we always do with fire prevention and education, we had a program coordinator where we would do a couple of those a day sometimes. We utilized it as a training. We, you know, streets, locations, maps, things like that. And I tell you, it was pretty rewarding to see these kids all, you know, fired up and happy that someone's driving by, you know, banging on an air horn and wailing the siren up for them. They had a good time. So that was a good thing that came out of it.
Yeah, you guys were in my subdivision that one day, and I heard all these sirens and everything. I thought, who the hell's house is on fire, you know?
Yep.
Here they come, driving around the subdivision. It was for that lady that works for the Admiral. So
Okay.
they had a flatbed truck with the Admiral's mascot on it and everything. I thought it was pretty cool after I figured out what was going on.
5 minutes of time goes, 5 minutes, essentially 5 minutes of our time went a long
Yeah.
way. And it made a bright day for some people,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
that was good. It really was.
Little bit of diesel, you know.
Yeah.
It's good for the trucks to get out and run.
Yeah, it keeps the tires from getting flat.
And you know what? Again, we turned into a training opportunity. We did maps and stuff and said, okay, here's an address, how you getting there? You know, because we have a lot of newer people, and we utilized it as that type of a training. And they got out to see some of the subdivisions where there's cul-de-sacs, create issues for large fire trucks and things like that. So all in all, it was a positive experience for everyone that was involved.
Well, the virus is still out there and circulating, so in fact, there's probably more cases per day in Waukesha County than there was in March or early
More
April.
testing also.
More testing. But the big thing is the hospitalizations and you guys getting in there, so.
Do you guys get notified if somebody gets tested and they're positive?
Yeah, I actually get an email on my phone, which you were getting them too, and then I would share it with the other two chiefs, and we kept a log, just so we could keep track of when they would put on and when they came off. We got another one yesterday, came in with 3, but only one of them was ours. Another positive COVID case, and then, like Chief said, we get another email saying this person came off. So, yeah, we were getting,
I think the most we ran probably about 6 or 7 active cases. It would kind of just fluctuate,
yeah,
you know, but on an average, it seemed like there were probably 5 or 6 or 7
like 15
cases.
to 20, maybe, total.
Over, yeah.
Yeah, the county website reports Vernon had 14 cases, so maybe one more there,
Yeah.
15.
Yeah, just
So, but that's total, and people do get, you know,
So a lot of
better.
times, you know, one of the benefits of doing these meetings every day for the first month and a half, was we were hearing from our neighboring communities, except for the 2 neighbors to the south of us, which would have been nice to hear what was going on there, but, hearing from the hospitals too, what's going on and what their, status and plans were. Like, if they had somebody that was in the hospital for a while there, they assumed it was a positive COVID case.
But they wouldn't test them.
They weren't testing them, they were sending them home, so we weren't, there could have been plenty more cases that came through that weren't tested at the hospital level, but the hospital, they can assume that it's a positive case. You know, the county's not going to. But that was a benefit of those meetings, is hearing the hospitals and, Dr. Schultz's report. Everybody's run volume was down,
Big time.
big time. I mean, we weren't having calls for days at a time, it seemed like, and when we were, it was a COVID issue.
Or a fire call.
or a fire call or an accident.
Yeah.
So, a lot of these calls where we'd be getting calls for routine things, people were choosing not to go to the hospital. Hospitals, inpatients numbers were way down. They were letting people go home,
Employees.
employees. So,
Hmm.
while they were expecting the worst, like they said, those numbers came anywhere near being the worst.
Is your run volume going back up now?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yep.
A little
It's, you know, and
You
again,
know,
it's one
with
of
people
those,
working at home or laid off, worse, no accidents because they're not on the road,
Yeah,
and, you know,
when we were at 3 or 4 today,
yeah, so they're coming back, people are out,
yeah.
out and about more, and I would expect that to continue.
Yeah, I mean, for a while there we're on the road. I mean, I was coming from my house to the station, you know, doing things, and I was driving around, and it was spooky sometimes, how there was nobody on the road, you know?
Yeah.
And now today we had a call up on the expressway, and
it
it was a zoo.
was backed up, way back.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, driving on the expressway was nice, you know, because there's hardly anybody on it. With the schools shut down and everything.
Except for there wasn't any place to go.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you're right.
Drive around in circles.
It's fun just to get out.
143 and 164 regarding your providing medical services.
We've made the offer, and
So it's still big Ben's territory?
yeah, that's a political thing, I think. It's, right, but we've made an offer, we've tried to talk to them, we've tried to work together. And there's just not the reception on that side of the fence from wanting to do things, you know. I was just looking at a CAD note today from a call that happened a month and a half ago where it took them 12 minutes to get an ambulance to the parking right across the street from the firehouse. To me, that's just something that we really have to strive to try and fix. And I don't know,
Yeah.
we've been trying. It's just one of those things.
During this, we had the opportunity to, you know, we weren't doing interviews, but we had an exception when one of my guys from Franklin retired. And, he wanted to come out and work for us. Well, he's a firefighter paramedic. We were gonna do whatever we could to get him hired. And thanks, Karen, for your help. So he came on and he was at the station one day and there was a car accident on the northbound off-ramp, and they came over on 164, literally right out our front door. And Tom was sitting there, really? We're not gonna go on this?
That is kind of screwed up.
We're hoping that we can continue to move forward and make some positive changes. And again, you know, it's one of those things that, you know, what's best for the patient should be the question. What's best for the customer? You know, if my family member's waiting somewhere for 15 minutes for something, that's not acceptable. But, you know, again, I don't want to dove into the political arena, but we're working on it for you. We really are.
Okay, well, any other further questions?
Is this something two boards, the Village of Big Bend Board and the Village of Vernon Board should be addressing?
You know, they were sent, a letter was sent in 2014
Yeah.
that pretty
Yeah.
much made an offer to collectively work together. And it was basically, you guys have read the response, or you may not have, but the previous board got the response, and it was pretty negative. Now, there's been a change in their political leadership, so I would hope that they would want to improve customer service for their citizens and the people that visit their community. But again, it's one of those things that take the horse to the water, but
We did meet with their chief officers. our
Back in
chief
January.
officers,
back in January, and we had some good discussions. And, you know, hopefully we can keep moving that way, but this whole COVID thing really sidetracked everything everyone does.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I think COVID, but also with the new administration that you referred to, I think there's a better probability of something positive happening than what it was before.
maybe the boss can talk to that boss or something. We'll figure it out.
On a side note, he
The
mentioned.
bosses have talked to one another, okay?
Yeah, we had.
Say again?
One employee tested. Because far as I know.
Positive?
No, tested, came back negative,
Oh, okay.
but that employee was exposed at another job. We
Oh.
also did have certain other jobs forbid their people from working.
Yeah,
By
that's
us.
created a little bit of an issue for us.
So, sorry, what was that issue?
So other departments where people work for us part-time, their full-time departments came out with directives that they could not work
Oh,
for
Okay,
other
thank you.
part-time departments at the hospitals, part-time jobs in general.
they didn't wanna take the chance of having a contact.
Right,
of-
right.
Yep, more exposure.
But again, our people stepped to the plate, they really did.
Yeah.
Chief did a good job of.
You weren't hurting for coverage, in regard to manpower, duty squads or anything during that period of time?
We weren't hurting, but there were a couple days we were thin.
Okay,
But just because of the way schedules fall and, you know, when you have
yeah,
5 or 6 people that are some pretty strong core people that you utilize and work quite a bit, all of a sudden they're out of the mix, that created a little bit of an issue, but some other people really stepped to the plate, so
yeah, that's good.
it worked out okay. But again, it really made us aware of some of the potential exposures we have in terms of people. That's our most important resource.
I want to thank you for everything that you guys have been doing and keeping records and keeping up on all this. It's really appreciated. It's a lot of that shadow work that goes on, a lot of people don't appreciate.
Yeah, for a while there, this was a full-time job for us.
Yeah, I mean, it was meeting
Oh,
every
yeah.
day, running around doing this, trying to,
Being on call every day, making sure our crews were handling every call properly. I mean, it was,
Yeah, it creates a massive amount of work.
battalion chief would run out to like a Home Depot and find out there were some N95 masks and buy all 5 of them they had. And I mean, we were, you know, because when this all started, there was a lot of, you know, there's a lot of different things that were being thrown out. There's potential, you know, they were talking about, you know, you have to wear the same mask for a month and all these different things. So we were trying to be as proactive as we could. And again, I think our people did a great job, which, you know, starts with getting support from you guys and then them knowing that they're appreciated.
Also starts from the top in the fire department.
Appreciate that.
yep, thank you.
Okay, well, it's still out there, so gotta
Yeah,
keep your diligence up, and run rates are up, you said, and so hopefully we
We
can
still
keep,
look good in masks.
Yes.
yeah. Well, gotta do what you have to
And-
do,
And
you
thankfully,
know?
people are getting haircuts now, because that was the most disturbing thing of the whole time, is people with hairdos that like, wow, okay.
Well, let's hopefully keep our case level down and,
yeah.
you know, keep everyone safe in the
My
community,
72
and
was back, it was
Right.
awesome.
so,
Karen has your monthly report, right? You shot that to them? Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so, we cleared our room under our COVID policy as quickly as we could. Well,
Good idea to do that.
that's gonna be part of my comments when we get back to the regular agenda.
Good courtesy. Yep.
Right. So now we can go back to the beginning with the, I guess we're on 5B. I think we have to, well, we probably should take these maybe one by one. The first, okay, so, I forgot how to say his name. Yeah,
Get a job.
Kalan? Kalan, yeah, Kalan, Jim Hun.
Yes.
He's a renewal, both of those are renewals. They're getting Class A beer and Class A village, maybe we just stick with the Class As and do them, so we could get a motion to approve the renewals.
I so move.
Of
The
those
3
two?
that we're talking about.
And, yes, those 2 only, is there a
2.
second?
I'll second.
Have they paid their fees and everything in order? Okay. Any discussion on their renewals? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. So let's go to Class B. Can we do Mr. Millies, Kim King, Frucci together? All renewals. Doesn't Mr. Frucci owe some money, though?
Oh, no, he's been a good boy.
He's paid? Okay.
Yes, way in advance. The only thing, everything's in order on all these, with the condition that Kim King's No, they're all fine, yep. they're
Kim
all
King
paid.
is paid too, or not?
Yeah, your check is in, it will be deposited on,
The 30th?
well, no,
Oh.
the 27th.
Okay, okay.
Now, the mill is, Michael Alex is in this group of four.
That's why the president had said Edgewood Golf Course, It Ain't Heaven, and
Yeah,
Morningside.
Morningstar.
Just the three of them, Jim?
Just the
Oh,
first
just
three.
the top three.
Yeah,
Yeah,
those-
yeah.
That I
just one,
didn't
two-
hear, okay.
Yeah, just those three, right.
That's what the motion would reflect. Trustee Slaney?
Yes, I'll make that
Oh, I
motion.
heard that.
For
Is a second needed?
by
Seconded.
trustee Mahalik. Discussion on the three renewals in Agenda 5C, 1, 2, and 3 on the floor. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, so this yellow page goes with Vernon Golf Club, doesn't it?
Yep, and we just have Doug DeBack at Siege. And once again, Mr. President, everything's in order and fully ready for the board's approval.
It's there. So yes, well, now we're on to letter D. The
That's just a
Siege
Class
page.
B beer
Just a Class B beer license, renewal.
renewal.
Motion to approve?
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? All in favor of the motion to approve the renewal?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Cigarette licenses.
Everything's in order, Mr. President, and no problems whatsoever with any of these liquor licenses in the past.
Okay, the cigarette licenses. Okay.
Yes, sir.
The R&S Midway Market, Morningstar, and Edgewood. Are the cigarette licenses up? Next four, and they're all up for renewal. Is there a motion to approve those renewals?
Make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries unanimously. The Vernon Lutheran Church, temporary Class B license.
Mr. Chairman, this is an annual event for the church. We've never had any problems whatsoever. They're fully compliant, everything that has been needed. They have a bartender license. It's all ready for the board's approval.
Now, on that one, the application, I just noticed this. It's a special event beginning June 27th, 2020. Do they even need it? Didn't there? Oh, no, it's for one day, isn't it?
It's just.
It's just for one day.
Right.
Gotcha,
It's
gotcha.
That's what these are, is typically a one-day event.
One day. So it is one day coming up soon.
And-
Is there, yes,
And the
sir,
board, I'm sorry, Mr. President, it would be locked in for that day.
that day, June 27th. Is there a motion to approve their temporary Class B?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Bartender's license for Mr. Zahn, and he works over at Edgewood Golf Course. Is his application in order?
Everything is in order, Mr. President. All fees have been paid, he's in compliance with his certification, and background check is perfect.
Right, no record.
No record.
Is there a motion to approve his bartender's?
Motion to approve?
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
I got Lorraine.
You got Lorraine? Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, now we're on to COVID-19 compliance policy. We heard from the EMS Fire Department, and that was a good report. Recreational program, I have not talked to Mike recently. We did have some conversations earlier, and I think he is, they're starting.
Yes,
Yes.
all programs have started, they're taking registrations, they're not doing the late fees because of the COVID and very little late fees, but all programs are starting. He's got all the parks delineated on asking people to do the CDC setbacks. There have been a few parents that have called that don't feel comfortable, so we've asked them to submit their request to the village board did not feel comfortable with their children playing.
Okay. So
Well,
we-
then, don't send their children.
Yeah.
They've already paid, so they just want a refund.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's okay,
Yep, that's
that-
all. But,
that's okay.
That's fine.
so all programs are up and running.
I thought from all the emails that I had read back and forth that, that was still a board decision whether they were gonna be open or not. Did I not get that right, or?
Well, when we spoke to the attorney indicated that's really a department's call, like the DPW or.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, yep, so he
So
had
that was
felt-
legit?
Right, there is only one, it is on the agenda later that, the board does need to address, is that facility use form.
Yeah.
You saw those emails.
Yep.
Right, that's different. So, I mean, I don't think we took action, we went through this in March, in middle of March, well, you weren't.
Oh, I was there, that's why I didn't.
Yeah, that's not-
Right.
Not triggering, but we went through this in the middle of March, that, I think it's important for the board to know what the department heads are deciding, and if that is, if we disagree with that approach, or the approach that they're taking, I think it behooves the board to change it.
But he
So-
is following all CDC guidelines.
Right, and I had, well, you saw emails too and they play in leagues, and, they're getting together with their other league members too. Obviously, if you don't have a league, you're not gonna have a program. So, they are trying to establish how to safely come back and do it, and I personally read through all of those, and it's mostly the parents are the problem, not the kids. So,
Well, that's always the case.
yeah, so, if they follow the recommended approach, I think we'll be, I think it's, everyone can make their own decision on whether to participate or not. And I think that's the policy of Waukesha County, is to leave it more to the individuals,
Right.
but to provide the individuals with the information in which, there are some good resources on the Waukesha County website, and CDC and Department of Health, that if they follow those, I think
Right.
it's nothing's ever safe, but at least the risk can be minimized.
The, in all of these things that we've just approved, I have a seller's permit from Siege Paintball. Did this get into me by mistake?
That's all part of their liquor license?
Right.
Oh, it is?
In order to get a liquor license, you have to show that you have a seller's permit.
Got it. And this is for,
Siege Paintball,
Morningstar had one, Edgewood's got one, they all should have one in there,
right. Morningstar wasn't in your packet, but it is
It's-
before you
yeah.
and emailed.
yeah.
okay, thank you.
In regard to the playground, or not the playground, but the teams that are playing here, we got an extensive protocol from the baseball club. It was about like 3 pages long, and of all of the things that they're going to do, I thought it was pretty all-inclusive in covering most instances where there could be a problem. And if they follow through on that, there's not gonna be any problem at all. And talking with John Henneberry, our DPW director, he's indicated that he's working hand in hand with Mike in order to maintain the proper use of the parks in regard to distancing and everything, so it sounds like they're trying very hard to maintain the right guidelines for everything, so we can only hope that everything goes fine,
Well, it's really up to the parents.
That's correct. Yep,
And the coaches, the
Yep.
adults in charge.
yep,
And as to the playground equipment, signs were posted,
yep.
throughout the playground equipment. The CDC recommends that they not be used, by the way.
Right, what's that?
Not be used, the playground.
Oh, yeah, no, the playgrounds, no, yeah,
Yeah,
but the baseball diamonds is.
But there are signs up there, and I have seen kids running on them, but
Yeah,
they're not disinfected,
no,
and nor will they be.
No.
But again, it's mostly social distancing, and the ball fields,
yeah,
they're trying to, like you said, Gary,
Yeah.
the guidelines are to keep the 6 feet, minimize the interaction, and particularly between, because all these, the participants, the kids and the adults are all from different households.
I think John even moved the bleachers, so that there wouldn't be.
Well, there was recommendations that the
Yeah.
bleachers be moved away,
Away,
Yeah.
yeah.
but if everybody sits 6
In the
feet
bleachers,
away
what have
in
you
the bleacher,
accomplished?
what does it matter?
Yeah.
But, so the big thing is the 6 feet,
Yep,
and.
people have to use some,
common sense, and they have to know, what, we want to keep Vernon as safe as possible.
Yeah.
Yet, our parks never close, they've always been open. People should enjoy the outdoors,
Yeah.
and they should be able to make their own
Their own
decisions,
decisions.
but they need to have the information. So,
Right.
you know, whether the bleachers are moved or not, I mean, if John wants to move them, that's fine.
Yeah. But
To
it's
me,
still
they
not
don't,
gonna
it's not
solve it.
necessarily, it's not gonna solve it,
No.
because if everybody sits next to each other with lawn chairs, what is it solved? Okay? So, but if everybody brings their lawn chairs and they sit 6 feet apart, you know, and members of the house, same household, like I've said before.
Plus they're outside.
You know, and plus they're outside, so. So that's the, update there. You know, DPW protocol, I think John's,
Once again, following all CDC guidelines.
Right.
Separations, disinfecting when they can.
what I've tried to encourage John to do is, you know, get those, especially in April, May, get the guys, you know, keep them separate. They're outdoors.
Yeah.
And stay apart as much as possible. If there's issues about riding in the same truck together, they could, you know, one could drive the truck, the other could drive their car, you know, to keep them apart, because that's the closest they come, side by side in a vehicle.
Yep.
Wipe down your tools, you know, at the end of the day. And it's just those kinds of things to keep our staff safe, because we don't want, what happens is, if one staff person tests positive, everybody's gonna get tested.
Oh,
And
yeah.
they may just close down, you know, Village Hall.
And that is one thing I should state to the village board. In each department heads are letting their employees know, if you don't feel good, please don't report to work, just in case.
Right. So clerk treasurer.
Same thing, the same protocols that DPW is doing. The traffic is a lot less limited. We are limiting the amount of, because our hall is so tiny, the entrance area. But everybody's been great, so that's going well.
And our town hall is generally
The
closed.
village hall
Or
is.
the village, 25 for me. Somebody else had one earlier.
She did.
I had a check. Jim's got the sheet.
Jim's got it.
That's right, that's right, we should keep a pig.
And it's closed generally to the public, no, you're not letting people come in using it, or is it still?
Oh, no, there's not, and just if people need the restroom, or if they're doing town business, we just don't have a lot of people in the, you know, the foyer area.
Right, and if there are, I think there was a sign, is there a sign that? wait
6
till
feet
you-
back, yeah, the setbacks, yeah.
Wait your turn outside, and
It's really slow, a slow time in town government.
Right.
Village, oh.
There's another
geez,
one.
I broke.
Should we up the ante on that?
only when you use it twice in the same sentence,
There you go.
as you did on Friday. Yeah, that was last Friday. Okay, use of village parks and facilities, we touched on that. Like I said, our village parks were never closed. Playgrounds are open with signs. You know, the ball fields are being used. Rec programs have started up under their guidelines, so that's where we stand. Hopefully, we can stay that way. Hopefully, we don't have a big run of,
Yeah.
you know, cases, as our friends in some of our southern states are experiencing now. And Wisconsin did a great job in April, I have to say. I followed the numbers, and not so much anymore, but a
Yeah,
great job
yeah.
in April.
Well, the only recreational one that I was concerned about really is the soccer. I noticed that over on this field here to the north of us, there was a group out there practicing for soccer, it looked like. Well, soccer you get a lot of contact with, you know. So I can understand if parents have some issue with that. But, you know, like baseball, something like that, you're spread out usually pretty good, except for when you're, you know, on the bench. And
But you can spread the bench
the
out.
coaches can spread them out.
You can spread the bench out. You're
Yeah.
not, shouldn't be confined to what is
The bench.
traditionally a dugout bench. They can spread themselves
Right.
behind the screen and lawn chairs. And they should, and that's
And they
one of
should.
their
Right.
rules. Yeah, it's really the distancing. Okay, the facility use, and we've had some emails on this form. Our form for outside groups, third-party groups that are paying us rent to use our field, I do think our forms may need some revision. It's really an insurance issue, making sure the town is named an insured and making sure that it covers what they're using the field for, including their, the parents and the participants that come onto our property. And I know there's some back and forth on the email, so we're looking for direction from the board.
Absolutely, and just so the board knows, they are fully compliant. We're not, their certificate of insurance apps does name the town, and also additionally insures the town, which it doesn't state in our form, double. It's double because of the issues related to insurance and groups using. It isn't so much when it's our group, it's people that are renting.
Right.
Now, you said town twice.
Oh,
Now, you may have been technically correct, because the contract was with the town.
yes, at the time, and
Does
it
it-
was a town
Does it
form.
right, does it automatically apply to a village?
Thank you,
there you
trustee
go.
Slaney.
Gotta be converted.
Can I call that lobbying?
Do,
Okay.
do we have to, should we have John take a look at that facility form in
Oh,
regard to the?
I have one that John's already, he doesn't know I
Oh.
have it.
Oh,
But I have a a village facility use form that I would like to bring forth to the
Okay.
board for you to review. I'd like to send it to the insurance company first, and then send it
Yeah.
to, and then if you want legal review,
well, there's no charge to the insurance company, so.
Right.
right.
Well, a lot of these questions are an insurance question more
Yeah.
than a legal question.
Right.
But, so that would be, I would say, if the consensus of the board, we need the motion.
No, if-
Consensus of the board is to proceed with revising a new village form. And certainly if the Fox River Bandits have a form that we've accepted as a town, I guess we're bound by it for this year, but going forward, or the next group that comes in.
And there was the Lutheran facility, they also, both organizations have done above and beyond what is required in the town form, but it would comply to our new village form. Their insurance requirements are more than, it's in their form, but that's what the village is requiring.
As long as our pursuing this doesn't negate the agreement we have with the town.
No,
You know,
No, I
no,
would just go forward. How's
Right.
It's
that?
just, okay.
and it's standard for
Okay.
those organizations,
Yeah.
Boy Scouts, we get it, anybody that's here doing anything. You saw the email about the farmer that wanted to be, and we couldn't approve that unless the farmer had the same insurance as the Fox River Bandits, or,
Okay.
Well, we're just trying to protect the town and or the village and the village taxpayers.
Right.
And,
It's gonna take a while.
and our insurance. Okay. Any further questions on item H? We'll move to I. I'll get my notes there. This is canceling or reformatting or possibly rescheduling Village of Vernon meetings with the COVID-19 protocols in place. You note on our agenda that we intend to comply with all applicable federal, state, and county executive orders, proclamations, and guidelines. That's on there because I think it's important. We're a governmental body. We've got very clear directives, even though we're open for business, quote unquote, to maintain social distancing, 6 feet, have in-person meetings so that all the participants, including the public, can stay 6 feet apart. And I think we did that tonight pretty well. We got them out of here because the risk is not only inside of 6 feet, but it's the length of time
Exposure.
to the people. So that's why I want to try to race through these meetings as quickly as possible, get the public in and out, if they can stay if they want, but in and out. And we need to, my concern is going forward in the future, this village hall is so small to maintain that 6 feet, any number, we had 5 extra people. I mean,
Yeah.
you get 20 people in here and I don't know how we can maintain that distancing. I think people are gonna become uncomfortable coming here for public comment or otherwise. Board members may be uncomfortable sitting here with that many people in this room. And it's one thing in the summer and maybe open the windows or have it more air, but in the fall, and their CDC is extremely nervous about what's gonna happen this fall with the flu and the COVID, coming together. So that's why I wanted to put it on here to get people thinking about it. This meeting has gone well. I think. Plan commission is the same thing. In plan commission, we do get more people and, coming in. I think we've got to establish procedures where people might have to wait in the parking lot and wait their turn and come in. I think we have to establish procedures if there's too many people in the village hall, we have to have somehow an overflow room, and might have to pull the DPW equipment out and get sound and maybe video equipment so that people can have an overflow room and wait their turn and come in. It's one thing to have people wait outside, and I'd like to have open air meetings, believe me.
Right.
But,
Just knock that wall out.
yeah, right. Like they do in Hawaii, I mean, everything's open air.
Oh, yeah.
So, but so I think that needs to be thought about how best to do that, because we are going to have instances where, that might happen. And I'd hate to have to adjourn meetings just because we can't safely accommodate, the size of crowd
Yeah.
here. Virtual meetings, I put on the agenda as well to talk about that. Other communities are still under virtual meetings. There are some disadvantages, of course, with those virtual meetings, but other communities have made them work. Now, we don't have really the equipment or the expertise to do it. But it would be nice, we're working on it, I think,
Proposal to the village board as soon as it's ready.
as soon as it's ready, so that we can understand the costs. Our equipment needs to be upgraded anyway. But it would be nice, even though we're meeting in person and we can, here at this board, we're, 6 feet apart. And I'm trying to get these meetings done in 2 hours. I'd rather have special meetings as discussed before, as opposed to one long meeting and where we're sitting together. The other thing that could happen is you or one of your family members could become sick and be required to stay home even though you're not
Yeah.
showing any symptoms.
Quarantine.
14 days. And so if there's enough cases, and there hasn't been in Vernon, as we've heard from the fire chief so far, there's certainly that possibility out there. And it would be nice if you're being quarantined to participate in a meeting virtually, because you might not be sick at all, and you might never get sick. But it's just that you're quarantined because a member of your household is sick. Or you're quarantined and your symptoms aren't that bad. You're sick, but, a lot of these cases are not
I
that
suspect a
bad.
lot of people have had COVID and didn't even know it.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Right. How many?
Yeah.
Nobody knows. That's the
Might have
problem.
been just a bad cold.
Nobody
They
knows.
thought it was a bad cold or something.
Right.
We could consider using the phone more. I shouldn't say more because we don't use it at all. But, public comments could come in through the phone, as a possible.
Right. And when I say virtual meetings, I don't think any community is actually 100%
Right.
virtual. There's everybody, but there's an IT guy
Really?
somewhere running it.
They got a whole
Yeah,
staff.
there's IT staff. See, the virtual meetings, you almost have you have to have an IT person running the meeting.
Right.
I can't be running the meeting and running the computers at the same time. So, and the clerk is taking minutes and providing information. And then, one or more of the trustees would be calling in or in person, and the public could
Right.
participate
Well,
that way.
a lot
Now,
of companies-
the public is listening on YouTube, if it's working.
Yep, yes, it is.
Today it is,
And live.
and live, and
Oh.
so they can listen.
Yeah.
But we had public comments tonight, for example. And those could be
They could be phoned in.
phoned in.
Uh,
With an, and City of Waukesha does it, you sign up before 4 o'clock of the day of the meeting and say tell them what the subject is, and they give you a code and you can dial in.
Right.
So that would keep the number here down as well. On the big public hearings, and I know we have a public hearing, 2 public hearings on Monday, next Monday, and then a public
Monday after
hearing
that.
on the siting of a cell tower on Artesian and Scenic on the following Monday, and we've secured permission from the school. Now, school's not in session, it's easy to do, I'm not sure how long that's going to continue,
Right.
but we've got to come up, that we cannot possibly have in this town, in this village hall, we can't.
Right.
Yeah, You can mark that one. I've got more now than Friday. Don't worry, I get marked at home too. So I don't know, I put them on here so we could at least get thinking about it. I think we ought to at least get the cost estimates and how, and maybe a recommendation on how to conduct a virtual meetings in the event that we have to go there because of the nature of the public coming in or people getting sick or quarantined. We want to, we want everybody to stay healthy. And this whole thing could come back. I mean, Wisconsin really squashed it in April, but.
Mr. President, Village Board members, there are some security issues related to this, so when we discuss future meetings, we'd like to bring the IT people in to talk to you about some of those security issues.
One thing we might note is we did change the time for the standard board meeting and planning commission meeting last.
Well, we changed the board meeting to
Seven.
seven, and like I say, and on, further down here, we'll get into
Oh, is that?
having a future, yes, 7 o'clock, yes, that's true, but having future special meetings to cover specific topics,
Right.
like the charter ordinance, like finance, like security, which we hitting them on the agenda. And so that was part of my thinking too, is have a regular board meeting twice a month.
Right.
Just as always, but if we have a topic that's going to take a long time, and we know it's going to take a long time, schedule a special meeting and just do that topic on that meeting day, as opposed to these lengthy meetings and.
It's just that I got a number of calls for when the meetings are gonna be. When they changed it from 7 o'clock originally to 6:30, when they moved it
Yeah.
earlier up, because people were missing the front half of the meeting. So,
And I did put a little disclaimer showing if people did tune in today at 6:30, just to let them know that the village board meeting is at 7 now.
okay.
And I know the president would like the plan commissions to be at 7, but the school would like the village to have their meetings at 6:30 because of staffing.
So they're at
Yeah, I
6:30.
suppose we're at their,
They have
We're at their, not
Yeah.
Yeah, Mercy, yeah.
mercy, but, they're the landlord,
It's
and if they,
their house.
And
their
they're
house,
being-
and they say 6:30,
They make
it's,
the rules, yeah.
it's
Yeah.
6:30, and we can't stay there till midnight either.
No,
They will not be happy,
And they own churches, so,
right?
That's a good price.
which is, yeah,
I mean.
we don't want to abuse them.
Right, we want to, that's exactly right. We don't want to abuse them. We have to be
Yeah.
respectful of their rules and their start times and their end times. And if we have to adjourn a public hearing
Yeah.
and set it, we have to.
Yeah.
And, I think after a couple hours of public hearing, you should adjourn anyway because,
Yeah,
The other thing that I keep hearing from people is the replay of our town board meetings, planning commission meetings or whatever, that they're not getting them. All they're doing is getting
yep.
the
That's a
vertical
sec-
lines.
That's a
Same
security
comments,
issue, that you,
Oh,
that he'll feel.
Gary's gotten them too? Okay.
Yep.
It's security, it's
Yeah,
not secure.
That's what I mentioned to a couple of the individuals when I talked to you and said, well, we're off the agenda really, but that's exactly what,
You're talking about meetings, and that's why
Yeah.
you don't see McWanago School District, cities don't, people don't do that anymore, because none of those sites are secured.
Okay, so you're saying it's a security issue, that's why it's not being replayed?
You don't see you don't see any
No.
meetings anymore replayed, they're only played live, and then that VPN is shut down.
okay. And what we're talking about is channel 25 on cable.
right.
We are not talking about YouTube. You
Nope.
can go and get whatever meeting is up on YouTube and watch it over and over and over if you want to. That is not, that's available. So there is an alternative. What else was I gonna say? But, and it was, good to hear, the public shouldn't really be coming in here sick. I hope they don't. And just like an employee shouldn't be coming in sick, or a member of their household is sick, they shouldn't be coming in here. You saw on the agenda, on the formatting of the agenda, our ordinance that carried over from the town into the village says, public comments are supposed to be on there. We had agendas where they were on there twice, beginning and at the end. To me, put them up at the beginning, the people can make their comments, then they can leave. It helps keeping the distance and the number of people in this. So that's why I took them off on this, on the second time, and people are saying, okay, that's good. Staff reports, people, the fire department came, they can certainly, we can certainly encourage them to do it by email. We can read their reports. We can have them come in and leave right away. John can wait in his office and come in if necessary and then leave. I mean, we'll try to, and just like tonight, what I tried to do is schedule rearrange the agenda. The people who are here, get them in here at the beginning, have their comments or their report, and then they can leave if they so choose. And I think that, again, to minimize the people in here and the spacing and the distance in here. So that's my thinking there, and that's what I'm gonna continue to do. People are shaking their heads, yes, by consensus. I mean, we're all at risk for something. I mean,
Yeah.
because we live with, or we're old, or
Try and
live with
minimize
somebody,
it.
or taking care of somebody, or whatever.
Breathing is a risk, so that's all.
Right, right. Let's not increase it, though. That's all I'm
Yeah.
saying, you know? There's risk out there. I'm just trying to manage or minimize it as much as possible. Okay, I think we've covered everything in my list. If there's any more discussion, or if I'm off tangent or whatever.
Just going to the times of the meetings, if you want to try it for a while and see how long, how it works, starting at 7 vis-à-vis
Sure, we can
6:30?
switch back, yeah.
Okay, just,
Switch back. Well,
you'll
we're
give it-
trying it at 7. I mean, we said 7, so
yeah, try it for a while
Yeah,
and see
we
what the,
22 minutes. Yes, let's try it.
I didn't talk 22 minutes.
I know you can. The next item is a Town of Vernon annual meeting scheduled for July 21st. It has been canceled, and the reason why is so everyone follows along. In the middle of March, I proclaimed a state of emergency, was ratified by the board on March 18th. The Wisconsin legislature passed a special law that allowed town chairman at the time to postpone the town's annual meeting for a period of for a period after 90 days after the executive order, which was, I forget the number, but it expired according to the Supreme Court, May 12th. So I had to instead of having people come here in the middle of the pandemic and safer at home to adjourn the meeting, I could do it by proclamation, which I did, and I set it out to July 21st, which was 97 days after May 12th or something. And in the meantime, we became a village.
Yeah.
There is no town.
You don't have,
We don't have town
town
meetings.
meetings.
Now, part of the charter ordinance, when we have that discussion, we can set up village meetings or whatever we want to do. But that's why it's been canceled. So unfortunately, we were, because of the pandemic, supposed to have it April 21st, and it's now canceled because now we're a village. And as citizen comment said, there are villages and cities have different rules. They don't have annual meetings, but they have direct legislation by referendum, binding referendum. And I gave them the numbers. It's no, I mean, we talked about them on Friday. It's no big secret. 9.20, although I think the number of signatures, I think our attorney might, I gotta talk to him about that. But the statute says what it says, no matter what Attorney Macy said it was. Okay, so that's the next item. So now we're on to J. Part of my proclamation, you know, I could sign contracts without board approval, but I would like these ratified. The Attorney Macy would say, yeah, you should ratify these contracts. And so the ones I signed, the Impact Copy Machines contract, I think that was for shredding for $100 or something like that. It wasn't much. Oh, the copy machine, that's the big one. Not the shred it, I'm off one, yeah.
All right, shredded is next.
You're right. Impact Copy, yes, we got 3 free months and a reduced price from what we had. We terminated our old agreement as part of this, and got a new agreement at a reduced price and free
Did we
free
get new
rent.
equipment, or was it?
Newer equipment,
Newer.
Okay.
reduced price and 3 free months.
3 free months?
3 free months.
Ooh,
So that's impact copy. Shred it was to shred $100 or something. Janet King, I think we discussed that in March, and we said go ahead, so
Yeah,
we did.
we did.
on that.
And they're doing it really good job.
So I would like a motion to ratify,
Can we do all three?
sure.
I'll make that motion to ratify the three contracts.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Porta-John contract, DPW, now our parks, you know, in the summer we have them. John says it's a good price. I think he can't find a lower price, so he's looking for approval of that contract and authorization for the village president to sign it.
Well, and if I read this correctly, he attached a competitive one. He
Okay.
bid it, got a price from McDonough. So I'll make a motion to approve
And authorize the village president to sign.
the sign, excuse me, yes.
Seconded?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Yeah, I had this in my box. That must be the original.
So, Mr. President,
Okay, AT&T Centrix contract. This is an annual contract, isn't it? I think
It's-
we did this, when did we do this last? I thought it was,
and there aren't, I mean, just so the board knows, I've had Spectrum come in, I've had different, there's no one that can meet the price of the Centrex contract. And the town has been doing this for years. I don't have. I don't think it's yearly. It was like
yeah,
2 or 3 years.
yeah, is it 3 years? Till 2025?
Karen, I was a little confused on page 3. Sorry, if you're looking for something else, consider me second.
It's through 2025.
Yeah, is that what
Through
you're looking
April
at?
30, 2025, is that?
So it runs through, that's what my question to Karen was. Okay.
So they're showing the prices what they were and what
Yeah.
they will be.
You haven't had any problems with it at all, Karen, in regard to?
No, and as I stated, we've had other vendors,
Yeah.
Time Warner came in, there's not a lot of options for the town.
Yeah,
But even as far as AT&T, there are other business products that they have. Centrex for our organization is the cheapest.
what about service calls? Have you had to use it for any kind of,
No.
nothing? Okay, well, speaks well for this.
Do we get any new equipment on this?
It's
Existing
it's
phones?
all lines, it's
Oh,
it's
this
not
is
hardware.
lines. Oh,
Our
this is
phones
not-
are owned,
Okay.
Yeah.
yeah,
You own your phone, okay. I'm still relatively new.
right.
And if we need additional hardware to run a virtual meeting, we'll get that from Ron and
And for the other IT vendors,
There's-
yeah.
right. So we looking for a motion to,
Make a motion to
Approve and
approve and authorize the chair to, did it,
mark it.
count me down. The president to sign.
Nobody's gonna make a motion.
Nobody's gonna make one anymore.
I withdraw whatever I said.
Mark him again. Because he just withdrew it, so he said it again.
Oh, I see. That was a silent one.
Is there a second, or did we get a second?
No, I didn't hear a second.
Seconded?
Jim did.
Okay, further discussion, it's 5 years, is that? Okay,
That goes fast.
okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Domain name. our IT guy, Ron Radke, there's two that he has reserved. We need to pick one. You've got an email on it, thevillageofvernon.org or Village of Vernon, WI, Wisconsin, WI stand, .org. Village of Vernon is taken, I'm not sure by who, somebody in Michigan or Connecticut or something.
Even Connecticut, we get a lot of
I was
phone
gonna
calls
say
from.
Connecticut
Yeah.
Yeah.
is out
So,
there, yeah.
It was interesting. The morning after the election, my neighbor called me up and said, you know, you ought to get Village of Vernon WI for domain name. And I said, too late, you already got it.
So save me, did we get it or no?
Those are two that I asked Ron before,
Right,
a couple months ago, to look and see what's available and at least lock them in, so nobody could take, those are
Sure.
only two that were left, so that you at least had a choice.
so what are the?
Village of
what-
Vernon probably, real appropriate, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, personally, I would say Village of Vernon WI.
Yes.
the
Yeah.
Wisconsin,
I think
yeah.
the Wisconsin
Yeah,
added
yeah.
to it.
Mhm.
So as to distinguish it.
Yep,
And it's unique enough.
Michigan and wherever
Right.
these other places are.
yeah, that's,
So we got a motion to use the domain name villageofvernonwi.org as our domain name going forward. Of course, we're gonna keep townofvernon.org to transition
Oh.
over and to drive the click over to the new domain site. So we'll run dual sites for a while.
Right.
So I'll make that motion. Is there a
So
second?
second,
Any further discussion?
and just a clarification for my notes, Village of Vernon,
WI.
WI, that's it. Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Just a second.
Who was the second? I made the motion. I think
Oh,
it was
the-
trustee Mahalik, right?
You
No,
made the
trust-
motion,
Yeah, I made the motion.
he seconded.
Yeah,
Okay.
trustee Mahalik, yep. Combining wards.
Oh, this is really important. Board members, you know that we've been using just the town hall because of the COVID and with the fire department, and we probably have 1,400 absentee applications for the next election, 1,400 to 1,600. So what I'd like to do to save money and to control the election is to combine, there's no reason to split the wards. The ballots are identical in this partisan primary in August. But to do that, we need the board to approve the combination of the wards. So all the elections, once again, like the last election in June, will be held at the town hall. Not at the fire station, nothing at the fire station.
Well, sorry, there's more absentee balloting going on right now. And does that does that limit or the traffic coming through here, that will not be a problem?
Oh,
Okay.
and the partisan primary is probably the most unpopular election that there is in
Right.
Wisconsin. People complain all the time, but we still have, I believe, 1,600 right now, and that precludes what's happening in the state. People right now are applying for more and more absentee applications. I mean, it's gonna be very prevalent for the November, but for the August, they're coming in already. The
No.
1,600 is what we have right now as of today.
Now, as of,
For what election?
Absentee, the August 11th partisan primary.
The state senator, I think, on the Republican side, state senator for our area is in the primary, isn't it?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, it
It's a
is.
partisan, yeah.
there's two of them running so far for state senator.
On the Republican
For
side,
Greg's job, yeah.
right.
but Karen, this would be for the presidential as well? Everything would be
Oh,
here?
God,
No.
I don't know what.
Then you'd
that
split
I'll
them up
keep-
again?
I'll keep the board abreast of what's
Okay.
happening for the presidential, but this would just be for the August,
I'm just trying to get a mental picture as to where you're going.
just here.
Why do you say, I'm sorry, why do you say it saves money?
Because there's not two polling locations, you know, the personnel there and
Oh,
personnel
personnel. Okay.
here, and besides the protection of the fire department members, keeping the public and all the poll
Oh, I
workers,
like that, yeah.
you know, keeping them out of the fire department until the environment's safer. Like I said, I don't know for sure what we're gonna do in November. I don't know what's gonna happen with that election, because if you watch the election commission, there's you know, everybody wants it to be virtually all absentee, so I don't really know, if it's all absentee, it'll be here again.
Is that the only reason we have wards?
Well, the wards are done because, on some points, when you have the districts, we all have, we have one congressional district and one Senate district, one congressional and statewide, but if you split the county supervisors or the school districts, that's where the wards come into play and they have to be split. We
Oh,
have 3
all right.
county supervisors, so depending on what's happening there or what's happening in a school election, then you have to split your ballots. But in this case, any time that there's a ballot that mirrors each other, that there's no reason to split, it's really economical to do that.
Well, that ward map I saw, I thought it showed that we had like 20,
We have 11 wards.
There, if you can see it.
okay, that's better than the one I was looking at, because they had like 24 of them or something.
Right, well, the 24 is the 24th County Supervisor District, the 25th County Super, and the 5th.
Okay.
So you see that's 3-way split in the ward map there. And then if you would put school districts, that school district layer is not on that map, but there's a Washington-Caldwell School District, a Norris, McGuanago,
Okay.
Waterford, all the different school districts, although they're minimal, that's why you have splits in the ballots.
So this is just to consolidate the wards for this,
For this election
One
only.
election.
Yes,
Because none of the ballots are different.
right. And we did that
All
for,
ballots are the same.
just like we did for the village vote.
Yeah,
There
Right,
was
just-
one polling
Right,
location.
Right.
village vote, there's one ballot, for a village against a village. April election, it was all here,
Right, right. And we did split the wards.
You did
We had
split the
to- We had to
wards.
split the wards then.
right? It's just a little confusing when you're splitting the wards in a
Mhm.
single location, because the voter has to get to the right
Right.
machine and show
Right.
and get the right ballot.
And the National Guard was here in the April election to really assist with moving, you know, spacing people and moving people and disinfecting people and the equipment and, but this resolution would just be for the August election only.
And you know what worked good for this last election was having one machine just doing the absentee ballots. I mean, I wasn't working it, but I've been a worker. And the the patience that you have to do in separating the absentees from the regular ballot is, and I know they're expensive, but
Well, and the volume of an absentee ballots
Yes.
versus, it was 300 to 1,200. I mean, great disparity in,
Karen, how much are those approximately for rental?
we own those machines.
The-
The only time the village board or past town boards, they've always approved for the presidential, and they're about $2,000 each for the election.
How many do we own?
We
Machines?
we own 2,
Two,
and we
okay.
rent 2 just for the presidential, because
Okay.
it's, you have a tremendous volume of applications.
Okay.
Well, this might be the wave of the future, just one single location in our village.
You would just,
Just because now people are voting by absentee, and it's more and more every
Yeah.
Well,
election. but
and I
this
was
last
impressed
one-
when I went into the first bay in the garage. It looked very nice, very presentable, and,
as good as you can,
pardon me?
as good as
Yeah,
good as you
for-
can.
for a garage.
Oh, I know. I walked in there and I said, am I in the same place? But no, it was very good, very organized, very neat, comfortable for people.
DPW guys do a good job, really good job.
Well, I like it, when the doors are open, then it's like open air voting, which is
Yeah.
even safer, I think, or minimize more risk of
Right.
passing COVID inadvertently, you know, so. All right, anyway, I'll make the motion to adopt resolution 2020-02, combining Village of Vernon voting wards for the partisan primary on August 11th, 2020.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, charter ordinance, I put this on, because we did talk about it last Friday. It's on here not to do it tonight, but to set a date, in the future, because I think this should be a special meeting, and we can go through, and perhaps it'll need to be in the afternoon, so we can have Attorney Macy here to help us through the process. As you remember, last Friday, we did a simple ordinance to get the Village of Vernon started under 10 days, under the statute, we had to do it, so we did it. This charter ordinance, as we discussed at some length on Friday, could cover things like, is the clerk, treasurer offices combined? Is the clerk elected or appointed? Is the treasurer elected or appointed? If we do, and Attorney Macy made it very clear, if we do nothing, then we'll have an elected clerk and an elected treasurer next April. And if we put this to some kind of referendum vote to the people, that decision needs to be made by
August 26th,
26th. I was saying 24th, but I was,
for the November.
for the
Yep,
November.
mhm. And I checked with the county
And we have to do it for the November because we have to know what we're doing in the spring by December 1st, so people can file papers or not file papers, is it elected or not?
Yeah.
So that's the drop dead date for it. And remember, I said, well, you know, I want to make a conscious decision. We ought to have a meeting, and if we decide to do nothing because we want it elected, okay, but let's make that decision as opposed to, no, let's not talk about it. So that's why I prefer a special meeting out in the open, you know, out in the open, and we can decide. If we need to do something in closed session, I don't know if we can, but we can ask Attorney Macy.
On the, we touched base on it before, and maybe this is the wrong time to bring it up again, but with the trustees and the president running in April, do we have to take out nomination papers and everything else? Everything is the same?
December,
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
it's the same. It's a municipal election. We're a
Okay.
village now instead of a town, but we've mirrored what we did as a town. The election laws are the same.
Okay.
So you take out nomination papers and all of that.
define the staggered terms.
And we define the staggered terms to get us on a staggered, I think I mentioned that earlier, you know, under the incorporation recap that I gave at the beginning of the meeting. So, you know,
This will be interesting for the people that work the election and having these electors come in and look at the slate of people that they could vote for. It's going to be a real challenge for the electorate.
well, we'd be electing, you know, president and trustees 1, 2, 3, and 4, just like, you know, in the town of Vernon, we had 2 and 4, supervisors 2 and 4 in 1 year, and 1 and 3 in the next year, so.
Couldn't you change that in the charter? Like, say, the top four, you know, like
We
the
could,
village?
we could change
Yeah.
that, we could change that.
So the
We didn't really
village,
discuss it. Other villages, I did mention that. Village of Menominee Falls does it 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think they have 7,
yeah,
the president. Some villages just put a slate, top 2 get it, you know, whatever, top 3. But the town of Vernon a long time ago decided to, and towns can do that too with their supervisors. Town of Vernon a long time ago decided, I'm not even sure when, I don't even know if we did that research. It was a
Oh, it's a
long,
long time
long
ago.
time ago. To do it 1, 2, 3, 4. And so I proposed that just because that's the way we've always done it. Can it be changed? Sure. You know,
And they're always at large.
and they're always at large, no matter what town or what village you're talking about. So we're not a city. Cities have aldermanic districts, wards, where
Right.
they
Right.
vote for their aldermen in that ward. That's not a village, not a town, but it's a city. Of course, cities have mayors and not presidents. Sure, so.
So, Mr. Chairman, are you looking for a date or just?
Yeah, a date, or if you're not prepared to, well, first of all, consensus that we ought to have a special meeting, and then a date, and if we need to email the clerk with proposed dates, maybe we should check with Attorney Macy first, and then throw out some dates.
And see what's available.
Do we have a specific time frame though, that we have to do this?
Yeah, we
So
gotta
it
get
has to be accomplished fairly quickly.
I would say sometime in July would be very helpful.
Mr. President, do you want them to have the Richfield Summit examples?
Oh, yeah, yes, we could give you,
The two ones that have been reviewed by Attorney Macy, the Village of Summit and the Village of Richfield.
Richfield, both
Okay.
of those. I've looked at those. The town of Waukesha incorporated as the village of Waukesha, they did a very simple one. I think when I've spoken to their president about theirs, his feeling is that, or the board's feeling is that they will take that up after the new board is elected next April. Now, I'm not sure what they're doing about their clerk treasurer though, you know, issue, and maybe they go back to elected. I think Kathy's appointed
Yeah,
Yeah.
she remains appointed till the end of this year,
into this year, okay.
but they could just update their.
Sure, they could do that too, you know. And I suppose we could look at Fox Crossing up in, Appleton area. That was, yeah, Menasha.
Oh, okay.
That's another one that's recently incorporated.
So did Raymond,
And so did Raymond, right, down in Racine, right?
and Rochester's, the two
Rochester's.
Rochester's became involved.
Right.
The only reason we talked about Richfield and,
Sussex, yeah.
Attorney Macy reviewed those.
Right.
And Carl, again, what can the public do by getting signatures for a referendum?
Well, unlike towns do not have this power, but villages and cities, the residents have the ability to affect direct legislation by referendum. And so what they could do is draft a charter ordinance of their own, get enough signatures on referendum petitions, and it would go to binding referendum, so it would override anything this particular board would do. And that
So
could be
we
the
would make
charter
a
ordinance
decision.
or any ordinance for that matter.
Okay, so we would do a charter ordinance, and then the public has the ability to override it,
Right, or the public has the ability just to do it,
or just to do it.
right? In other words, we could decide, hey, we want these positions elected, separated, let's do nothing, because that's the state law. The public could come in and say, no, we don't like that, here's the ordinance, let's put this on referendum.
And then would all the choices be on the ballot?
Depends on how that was drafted. Yeah, you probably couldn't. We'd have to get Attorney Macy's opinion on that. In other words, I'm not sure they could draft an ordinance that said, you know, separate, combined, elected. You know, they have to draft
would
an
be a
ordinance,
mess.
this is what we want, let's put it to vote.
But there'd still have to be an option for the people. I mean,
You can
there
always
have
vote against it,
vote against it. But then what would happen, what would,
then you would revert back to what the village board did or didn't do.
okay. All right, just wanted to understand that.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, it's important. No, I'm not hiding behind, you know, statutes or referendum. The residents are, you know, can force referendums. So, the timing is a little tight for that, for a resident to get it decided by November. In other words, they would have to have their petitions in and certified. You've certified petitions and you have 30 days to do it. So backing up 30 days, and then the village board has, once they're certified, I think it's another, I better not just speculate, I don't have the statute in front of me. A certain period of time, I think it might even be 30 days, to either adopt it, you know, what the people asked for, or if they don't adopt it, then it automatically goes to referendum at the next election. Well, to get on the November ballot, August 26th, that would have to be August 26th. So you back that up, July, June, I mean, they basically would have to present it next week to make it to the November ballot election. If they miss the November, well, then it goes to the next one in, well, I guess February, right? So it's a matter of timing, you know, backing through the days and the time. So, but it might take 700 signatures to get it done.
Yeah.
So, consensus to have a special meeting on charter ordinance, should we try for dates in July?
I think you were gonna check with Attorney Macy first.
Right, but we'll check for dates in July, right?
Possible, yes.
Yeah,
More than likely something in the afternoon
Yeah.
is what you're thinking?
yeah. Yeah, and it's gonna take, well, we've already spent 15 minutes, we spent 2 hours
Right.
and a half on Friday. I'm thinking, we gotta set aside at least 2 hours to hash this
Oh,
out,
yeah.
maybe longer.
Yeah.
You know, that's why I would like it on a special meeting, otherwise we could work till midnight sometime, but I'm not a big fan of that.
Yeah.
But I do think we owe it to the residents to come up, and we had a big, long meeting with the residents, if you remember, in December, with nothing got decided. And we'll hopefully have a finance meeting before, we'll see what the results are. I mean, there was a citizen comment about financial, you know, how much things cost, and so we'll have those numbers for 2019 with our audit. We'll have those numbers, what they are, as opposed to last December, what they might be. So consensus, sometime in July, we'll see when Attorney Macy, and we'll kick out some dates and we'll set a, okay?
And it was talked about in the afternoon, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, letter P, trustee dash accounts payable request for mileage request. We had a couple of citizen comments. Trustee Wilde, you put it on the
Yeah,
agenda that's separately. It is in the APs. There is documentation in the APs. You
Right.
got in your packet.
Well, the problem isn't for the requested mileage of the $333. The problem comes in is we still have not resolved the aging report where there's a $1,500 owed supposedly by figuring out the mileage that was overcharged in 2018 and 19. This mileage here, I can understand that being paid for at that time, but the mileage that was billed was determined that it was 1,500. You would have to look at the aging report. I don't have it right here, but I know we have it. $1,500 and some dollars that was owed. That's the bone of contention. It's not the money that's we're gonna supposedly be paying tonight. It's that what do we do about that $1,500 and some dollars that was owed, that was determined that it was overpaid to the treasurer at that time. So it's been on the aging report for some time. We haven't addressed it. We need to either have to say aye or nay on regard to where our position is in regard to that $1,500. We've made it a practice of trying to clear our aging report, and we need to get this resolved one way or another by board action, I believe.
I would agree with that. We do have the AR aging report under finances 8F, and the next item is future meeting dates for finance and security. I would propose, we're jumping ahead here on the agenda, but I would propose putting in a finance committee and a security meeting, the aging report, because it's not just that particular.
Right, there's
invoice.
numerous,
There's numerous ones.
Right.
There's brush pickup fees in there.
right.
And the town, board is always, town board in the past, village board now, should go through this. I would agree.
Yeah.
And decide what we do. And this particular one, it is disputed, and I would take it up at a finance meeting and make a decision.
Okay. But are you proposing that this particular item be addressed by the finance committee? Is that
Well, no, by the board.
by the board?
In a
Okay.
in a meeting that we just do all of our
Okay,
finance.
all right.
Now, that would
items.
be specifically, excuse me, specifically for the funds in contention, which you were
Right,
talking about.
right.
The mileage that we would just approve tonight and get her paid.
Yeah.
Get that off the docket.
Well, I find it a little hard to pay the $333 when there's still an outstanding balance. That's where the dispute comes in, Jim. I can't, we need to resolve that $1,500 and make a determination is, does this $333 go towards that, or is this is it separate? That sort of thing. I want to get that $1,500 resolved, one way or another. Is we either say the treasurer owes the town the $1,500 in dispute, or the board says, no, it's a mute issue, and then we can go ahead and pay her this $333. I just want to get this cleared up once and for all. It's something that, it's been hanging over us for a few years now, and it's disconcerting to the past treasurer, because she hasn't got her money back, and she's being told that she owes the $1,500. She needs to have this clarified by the board. Does she either owe the money, or does she not owe the money and then she gets paid? That's what I'm at right now. I think the board should make a decision in regard to this.
I believe that this matter should be settled and she should be paid. And where I'm coming from, we don't talk necessarily about this, but this has also been turned over to the Waukesha County Sheriff. They've looked at it, okay? And you talk about a third party looking at something that is being disputed by this board. They've looked at it and they found that there was no consequence to it, that there was nothing illegal, inappropriate that was done. They also went into a lineage of how this all happened. And so and looking at them, it's my opinion that we should go ahead and approve this for payment and close it out.
Can I say something?
Sure, trustee.
That invoice can't even be explained. I'd like to have Gary explain it to the board.
Well, I think in my view, that would be part of a board meeting with finance, and we discuss, that's a finance thing, AR, and we discuss it and resolve it at that meeting.
Mm-hmm.
As far as what's in the APs, last summer, I looked at it and I felt that the town at the time owed the former treasurer that mileage, and I voted to approve it, as did others on this board. And then
Unanimous.
And then the day later, I can't remember exactly timing, we had one of our supervisors call a special meeting, and it was, payment was suspended or put on hold on a 3-2 vote, as I recall. And it was, the sheriff was supposed to look at that. I haven't seen anything or any report. So, and that was last summer, as I recall. Well, it's in the documentation. So to me, they're separate items. I agree that there's an outstanding invoice that's under dispute. I have a whole file folder because I've looked at it last summer. I don't think that's valid either, but that's just my view, and we should have a board vote on that, but it's not on the agenda to vote on tonight.
Right.
It's on the,
Right.
and my proposal would be to hash it out at a special meeting. It's one of those things, with all the finance things that we have to go through, the audit report and so on, to me, that's a meeting in and of itself.
Yes.
But if it's in the accounts payable, why do we have to have a special meeting?
No, what we're talking about is
The
the
1,500.
outstanding invoice
The aging report.
in the accounts
Oh,
receivable
all right.
aging report.
Okay.
Right, to me, there's two issues.
Yeah.
Okay, there's two issues, as trustee Wildey pointed out, there's two issues. Trustee, if I may, trustee Wildey to say, well, I don't want to approve
No,
the mileage until we get the
till it
AR
get resolved.
resolved.
Yeah,
To me, they're separate issues.
okay.
I think we can approve one. I mean, it's just a difference of.
And I don't feel that holding back anybody's pay for any reason like that is valid or honorable. You know, if we owe the money, pay the money.
Well,
We can always go back and say, okay, you owe 1,500 or whatever that number is, you
Yeah.
know, on that invoice. If that's how it turns out. But
well,
it's already been approved on APs and the like, cut the check and be done with it.
correct. And
Done with that part. And still deal with the invoice issue, that's, I agree, should be a full-blown finance meeting.
And I agree with you, Jim, because, and where I'm going back to is the county sheriff looking at it, okay, and coming up with the determination that there was no malfeasance or
Right.
any inappropriate action taken. And I'd look at that as a very strong indicator for me, without going through a lot of files, because they've done it, this town board has done it, and they both came up with separate opinions. However, I will defer to the county sheriff, who also turned it over to, I think it was the district attorney, to review it as well. So powers greater than this board, okay, have looked at it.
Okay, so if you, you know, you could make a motion to pull it from the current APs.
Yeah,
Or
well,
or you
either
could
that or not
against the
vote
AP,
for it.
Or not vote for it, right?
Yeah, there you go.
I mean,
That's the easiest way.
well, I mean, you know, we have to
Yeah.
keep moving through the agenda. I think
Yeah,
we've
we're-
heard, I think we've heard everybody's view. Okay.
Because I'm sure I'd be hanging out there in a breeze with no second.
Okay, all right, so we'll move forward then?
Sure.
Okay. Now we're on letter Q, the RFP for contracted services, refuse and recycling assessment services, and perhaps other vendors. I put this on here, remember, while we were still meeting in person in February and March, we did have, our refuse and recycling guys come in, and I think they talked to me and Karen, but not, oh, it was a full board, that's right. But, you know, Ms.
Right,
You
managed
weren't
job.
here. I'm sure they'd be happy to come in and
They
talk
did.
again.
They did, because the board specifically indicated at the time, let's wait, it was right before the election, and they thought it would be proper for the new person to hear the whole spiel, and then decide if you want to do RFPs. Would you have to do that quickly also?
Did,
Yeah, if we're gonna go out for RFPs on anything, we should be doing it.
yeah,
Soon.
Well,
that,
you know me and RFPs.
I know.
we
I
did,
like RFPs.
we did get a email from that one gentleman who was interested, I think from John's.
Well, it would go out to everybody. I mean,
Yeah, I mean, he made a specific effort to put an email through
oh,
to,
he's not the only one, Gary, trust me.
he's not? Oh,
No.
then people want garbage that bad?
But the board at the time thought it would be fair for Jim to hear the same spiel you heard,
Yeah.
and then decide if you, unless Jim automatically knows, they had a proposal. You know.
Right, I'd have to dust off the
We
proposal.
gotta start soon on this.
Yeah,
though.
yeah, and again,
The contract
Um,
expires, so.
depending on, you know, how our finance meeting, how long do we expect that to take? You know, I wanna be in for a special meeting, 4 or 5 hours, kind of defeat the purpose of keeping the meetings to
Right.
2.5 hours, which we're
Yeah.
running up against here.
Pushing the window now.
So, yeah, it's always tempting to put more and more things on, but that could be
Yeah.
another special meeting. We could just have one on contracts. We could have them, we could look at the, you know, for example, assessment services, or, you know, both contract for planning, attorneys, all of them we could look at if we so chose. Or at least say, we're not gonna go out this year, we're happy with where we're at.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a conscious decision. We do have, you know, Jim's new to the board, Fred was elected in last August, I was elected, and Green was, you know, so it's good to look at these contracts. And so
I
maybe
agree.
that's another special meeting, but we do, if we're gonna go out for RFPs, we gotta do it quickly.
Right, I'll get it ready, just in case, because it's a big RFP.
Yeah.
The only thing is we don't have, well, but that's the biggest indicator, if Jim wants to hear what Advance said to the board then, and then you'd have to decide.
Well, the big thing is the response to the RFP. You know, you look at the bottom line and what that gets you. Make a comparison
Yep.
on the RFPs on what you're getting the most value
Right.
for, and that's who you go with.
The only thing is you might want to hear what they said They did make an offer.
Yes.
Yeah, so you might wanna just hear that and then say, then, I mean, the board would wanna make
Is
it.
that,
Right.
is that
They did
recorded
make a-
somewhere?
No, no. That was like a working meeting,
It was a
Oh,
working
okay,
meeting, yeah.
yeah,
but they'll
Was,
come in and
right.
talk again.
yeah.
And it's probably 15 minutes, 20 tops.
Oh,
It
okay,
wouldn't be a long meeting.
Right.
that'd be
Okay.
good.
But then you could discuss, as the president indicated, what other vendors you'd like RFPs to go out for. Some you can't because you have contracts, but.
Right. Well, maybe it'll work out.
And then I could also present the list of all the other things you guys have to look at too. Surprise.
Right.
Eh,
Well, like I said, we didn't meet
Right,
April, May, 1st of June, end of March, so,
well, when will we have that kind of a meeting?
After you get back from vacation,
right.
You're going on vacation?
well, he's only going for, not Carl.
Not me.
Not him.
Oh. I was gonna say, Carl isn't going anywhere.
Yeah.
I'll get
Country I
some,
want to go back to is closed.
I'll get some dates from them and then check with your calendars.
Okay.
Is that okay, Mr. President?
Yes, that's okay.
Okay.
So, while we're talking about future meetings, next item is finance and security. We talked about finance and what could go on there.
Right,
Security, we talked about security, in virtual meetings. And I think we were throwing out next week, Thursday, afternoon or morning.
Yeah, the only thing is Jim's not here.
Only thing you're not here. See, now if we had virtual meetings, we could
yeah,
we could make
I
it,
can call it.
you can call in.
I could.
The trouble is, we did have that one, remember, we had that one call-in meeting in closed session? And
But there
we
were
had,
3 call-ups.
There's
It
3
might be different with
callers.
one,
Yeah,
if you want to do that on your vacation.
you could at least follow and listen and
My-
vote.
my cell phone works in the boat, just,
Well, see, that's the other thing about virtual, if you have the capabilities, you can be remotely and still call in, even if it isn't a health
Yeah.
emergency. You just wouldn't want to make it a practice, simply because there are difficulties, as we all know, or if you didn't know, you found out how it worked at that meeting we had in April,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I could go either way on it, like in person, but it's awfully nice to be able to dial in.
oh, yeah.
June 25th?
So, yes, and the village board just has to decide if they want to do a morning meeting or an afternoon meeting. It would be with the,
June 25th, what day is that,
it's a
Monday?
Thursday?
Thursday.
Thursday, next week, Thursday? I don't know.
Howard will be
Afternoon?
here. Ron
Yeah,
will
I
be
prefer
here,
afternoon.
Howard will be here, Ron will be here.
Tom Tomasek from
So
Finance.
we'd be going over, if you flip under finances in 8, depending on how much we get done out of this, but we could do, Howard would be here, we'd do the 2019 audit report, as we just discussed, the AR aging report, these outstanding invoices that are out there, those need to be discussed and figured out. I don't know much on the LifeQuest.
Just an
account.
update for the board to be aware of what's happening on LifeQuest, all the financial statements, not that you have to go through them, but
Yeah, we can talk, go through or talk about or discuss or
lot of
have
stuff.
questions on all the financial statements to date, the securities reports, whatever we can get on the agenda. That could all be the finance part of it. The security part, we probably need a closed session to talk about IT and IT security.
Yeah.
So we would do that as well. And we could schedule it so Ron would be here at a time and Howard would be here at a time. And then if there was time in between, we could tick off these other ones,
have Howard first because he's expensive.
right? Afternoon?
Yeah.
I heard a yes,
Yep,
a
yep,
yes,
Yep,
a yes.
Sure work.
after lunch, 1 o'clock.
After lunch, 1 o'clock,
1
1:30?
Yeah, that's fine.
1 o'clock works best for them. for-
Okay,
So 1 PM?
1 PM start.
Okay,
And those items that I kind of listed off while we're on it?
June 25th.
Where's the exact date now?
Thursday, June
25th.
25, 1 PM.
Okay.
And then the meeting is called,
Be here?
You'll be here. yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
Right?
oh,
It'll
what
be a
is,
village board meeting, village board and finance committee.
okay, that's
Tom
fine.
Tomasek's gonna be here, right?
We have a special meeting the night before.
June 22nd, Monday.
Yeah.
There's no special meeting the night
There's
before,
nothing on the 24th?
or the 23rd.
No,
No.
22nd,
The 22nd, Monday night.
Monday night, 6:30 at the
Okay,
school.
And so now this one is for Thursday, the 25th.
Yes. I know I'm gonna get a bad reputation all these meetings. Now, item S, we're good? Good to go? Okay, now item S, it's getting late. Item S, I raised this just to have everybody think about it, but we'd like to have volunteers, otherwise we'll have to vote people on. We need to appoint a village board member and a planning commission member to each of these committees under our cooperative plans. The committees would be the Joint Plan Committee and also Shared Services Committee. Our Village of Waukesha doing the same. Town of Waukesha is doing the same. I'm not sure if they've appointed people yet or not.
I don't think they have, but I know they're working on it.
They're working on it and have it on an agenda here in June. So, if we have volunteers, we'll take volunteers. Doesn't have to be the president, but you would be working with another community. And it's under the cooperative plan, and the joint plan, committee would be just the half a mile each side of our common border. Town of McGonigal border is, of course, very limited, so there won't be too much to do there. Town of Village of Waukesha, that's a long border.
How often would they meet, Carl, do you think?
Well, I think the committees would set their own schedules. I would think there would be an organizational meeting, and then identify if there's any conflicts between, in the joint planning area, identify those conflicts. And, if there's conflicts, identify them and then discuss how best to resolve them. It's an advisory committee. And, whether that can be done in, two organization and identify conflicts, one, and another meeting to resolve, 2 meetings, a year maybe, hopefully. Maybe more shared services. I think that committee would be an organizational meeting, and since budget time is coming, shared services could be a shared piece of DPW equipment. Take a look, work with the fire department's mutual aid, work with DPW and is there anything else we could share, manpower, or any other shared services? I know we do is wherever we can, whether it's jointly purchasing, we have elections issue, things that we do together and
Look at everything.
look at everything.
I mean, you could rule it out, but it doesn't hurt to look.
Right.
Courts, I mean, you go anywhere.
Yeah, municipal court system, we don't have one here, but,
Oh.
there's something. And, to me, the big one there is gonna be police protective, we have to provide some police services as a village.
Yeah,
And that would be the one, place to start, is trying to work with our neighbors on some shared services. And the county, or the
yeah,
county.
yeah.
So that, it's in the agreements for a reason. We're looking to save taxpayer money here, and it kind of forces us to do it. That's part of our cooperative plan. That's part of our,
It's part of the agreement.
part of the agreement, yeah. You're right,
That's how we got it through, is by saying
Exactly.
we were gonna do that.
right.
Which you take very seriously.
And we do take it very seriously.
Yeah.
And we should.
All right.
Jim is a village board member and a planning commission member.
Yes.
So he can fill either spot.
Yeah, whichever spot you need,
You wanna?
I'm in.
You're in, okay? On both agreements or just one? Probably makes sense. Well, I don't wanna double everybody's workload. But
Yeah.
I'd go for one too. Yeah, I'd go on one.
which one?
Do you have a-
Shared
do you have a
services?
preference?
Shared services, yeah, with Village of Waukesha. I know somebody down there.
Okay.
And didn't, you were on the prior board that tried to work something out with it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it didn't work out.
No, it was because of I'm not gonna say, the management of the Village of Waukesha Board at that time it looked like it was self-serving. He was trying to push us into a position that we couldn't really accept because they wanted us to do all the work and we'd pay for everything.
Okay.
And it was not a good
Doesn't sound like a
arrangement.
mutual
No,
agree-
it was not 50-50, let's put it that way.
Okay. Well, they have different board over there, just like
Yep,
the Village
yep,
of Big
it's a
Bend, which is
different
not
board.
part of this, but they have a different board too, as do we. And
Yeah.
From when you know, 2 years
Oh,
ago.
yeah,
Yeah. so-
it's different. It's, nothing never stays the same.
But that's what they get paid to do, is they're trying to save money for their residents.
Well, it was about $250,000 difference.
Trustee, wow, like you're smiling.
Joy,
You have to have what, 2 members?
2 members.
2 members.
We have 2 agreements and 2 members.
And I'll take joint.
Joint planning?
can we do that? Because we're both on our planning commission and on the board?
Right.
Oh, one just,
You got one is our board representative, one is
One's
plan
plan
commission
commission.
representative.
Okay.
How's that?
Decide which you want to be.
You both gonna be joint planning for both-
Flip a coin.
yes.
both communities, okay, got that.
Okay, so Jim, Village of Waukesha and Town of Mukwonago, Joint Planning Committee, Fred, Village of Waukesha and Town of Mukwonago,
Ooh,
Joint Planning Commission.
knocking them out left and right here.
Trustee Dashek.
Oh, there's nothing left.
Shared
Pays us in
services.
at the end.
We've got Gary, Village of Waukesha Shared Service.
Right.
And so we need another member there, and we need another, and then we need 2 members for Town of Mukwonago Shared Service. See if we can do something there.
Yeah, that shouldn't be too difficult, because we, like you said, we don't have a whole lot in common up there.
We do plow some of their streets.
Yeah.
But not a lot.
No,
And it's hard because of the marsh to get
Yeah.
over.
yeah, right.
And the village is always 2 shared police and EMS, I mean, EMS and fire. Village and town?
In Mukwonago,
Yeah.
right, so, I mean, yes, because of the,
And they did do a study, the town and the village did a study about
Mm.
multi-jurisdictional coverage.
It's already partially
So you could-
resolved?
yeah,
They
you
did a
can,
lot of work.
they did a lot of work, you can review it and see if there's anything in there for the Village of Vernon.
Hmm,
Or something we could use with the town of Waukesha,
yeah.
or the Village of Waukesha. Maybe a half a one for that.
Well,
Did you say there needs to be one for Mukwonago as well?
Yeah, town of Mukwonago,
Sorry, town of Mukwonago?
yes,
Okay, I'll take joint planning, is that?
You're already on that.
they're already on that.
Gotcha.
What shared service?
We need-
For the town of Mukwonago.
What's that? What do you need me for?
Shared services, town of Mukwonago.
Shared services,
Shared services for town of Wango. That's fine, all right.
right, and, well, no, we need 2, so,
Oh, yeah, that's right.
one of those has gotta be a plan commission member.
Could be like Dan Nowak.
Yeah, it says that in there,
Oh, does it?
yeah.
How about Dan Nowak? You could ask him if he would be interested in
Shared services.
shared services, yeah.
I nominate Dan.
Yeah, if you're not here, you get. I kinda like him myself.
Yeah.
He's pretty sharp.
Yeah,
Yeah, although he says, why can't you put me on the joint planning, I'm a planner, but, you know.
Yeah.
So is it our responsibility now to reach out to them to set it up, or will Karen be setting up meetings with us with them?
I would work with Kathy, the Kathys.
Yeah,
There's a Kathy in the village and the Kathy in the
Okay.
town.
right.
And then those Kathys would work with their boards and then get
Yeah.
something together.
Come up with,
Okay,
Who's calling Dan? Fred?
A wonder if he's listening. Check your text messages. You better not.
Guess you just got pointed.
Was Dan appointed to both shared services? The village and the town?
So you think you should get an okay first?
Well, find out if he's willing to serve on both of them.
Okay,
He's a pretty sharp guy, you know.
he's very sharp.
Okay, so I have a motion to appoint trustee Solani to the Joint Plan Committee with the Village of Waukesha and the Town of McWanago. I should amend that, Jim Solani and trustee Fred Mahalik to the Village of Waukesha and Town of McWanago Joint Plan Committee under their respective cooperative plans.
Joint planning for both.
Right.
Waukesha and
Town of
Town of
McWanago.
Morado, yeah.
And trustee Wildy,
Yeah, well, okay, we can take, can we just
Oh, you
take?
just- okay.
Yeah, I'll just do that, we'll take a vote on it. Is there a second? Quick, Gary.
Second.
Wait, your turn's coming.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So then we'll have a motion to appoint trustee Wildy to the Village of Waukesha Shared Service Committee under that cooperative plan, and trustee Dashik to the Town of McWanago Shared Service Committee under that cooperative plan, and
Do,
Dan Noack to both
with his permission.
with, subject to his
Consent.
acceptance. And there's a second.
who, oh,
Trustee Dashik.
Refresh me on Dan's. Dan is
shared
Service
services for
committee.
both community, for Village of Waukesha and Town
Yeah.
of Guanago.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
and that would be for the shared service.
And I suppose if he declines,
Then you have to go
then
up.
I gotta do something, I guess.
Yeah, you gotta step in.
Or what do you guys?
Jim's really good at that, though.
I thought you were going to serve on all of them with us.
Wrong.
Who's gonna contact Dan?
I can
Okay.
if you don't want to.
Sure.
Well, I don't, it's not that whether I want to or not, it's just,
You can.
I
You
can
live
call
right
him.
next door to him.
Oh, as I say, I can call him. I don't know who wants to do what.
Well, maybe he's watching.
Pardon me?
Because I have to ask him
Maybe
another
he's
favor. You
watching.
ask him, I got a big.
No,
You
his
know,
wife's
if he
on
has a
surgery.
problem and would rather be on the planning one, I could switch with him.
We'll have a meeting July 2nd.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're not
Yeah,
Yeah.
necessarily locked down, so.
Because that was who I had in mind for the planning one, was, because he is pretty sharp on the planning issues.
yeah, but I have him in mind for the zoning code.
Oh, yeah.
Too bad.
Yeah.
Gotta find somebody new.
The village zoning code. Okay, so we have a motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Got it.
Carried. Thank you, everyone. Letter T, authorize village president to discuss possible cooperative plan with the Village of McWanago. We did talk about this on our last week, Friday, and by consensus, you authorized me to call over there, and which I did, got their voice, village president, in the Village of McWanago voicemail. He called me back and left a voicemail that he's willing to meet, so thought I'd get it on the agenda and make sure, even though I think I have authorization from prior town, put it on the agenda and make sure I have authorization to discuss it as we discussed last week in closed session. No sense in going through any of that
Yeah.
now. So that directive stays in coming out of closed session. So I'd just be looking for a motion to authorize the village president to discuss possible cooperative plan with the Village of McWanago.
So move.
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Item 7. Correspondence, announcements, and reports. Village Board, trustee Solani.
I have nothing new, just glad to be at Village.
Thank you, trustee.
Yeah, I also want to echo Jim's comments. I'm real happy after all these years, you know, of all the work that's gone into it. And particularly, want to thank the the president. I know how much work he must have done in order to get this to be successful. And the residents of the town should be appreciative of the fact that the time and effort that you put into it. The other thing I'd like to make mention of is that we're gonna lose a longtime employee this month. Kurt Effinger is gonna retire with over 40 years with the town. And I just wanna make a comment in regard to the appreciation that we've had for his many years of dedicated service to the town of Vernon and to the residents of the town of Vernon. He'll be missed, and with his expertise and his just all-around personality, you know, so I want to thank him and from my perspective for his service. Other than that, I don't have anything else. We're all getting telephone calls on little minor issues, but things that we can either resolve through the clerk's office or handle by just, you know, giving it direction or in comfort to the person that's calling. So other than that, that's all I have, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Trustee Mahalik.
I'd like to mirror what Gary had to say about Kurt. He's one of these blue chip individuals, very even-tempered, seems to respond to anything.
Big eater.
I don't know about the big eating, but he's big. But the town is truly going to lose an asset in that department. I'd also like to comment that the intersection of Skyline and Center has been taken care of. I've driven by it a couple of times, and it seems very good. The other is I'd like to compliment the fire department for all the heads-up planning they did with the COVID. And I'd also like to take the time that everybody in the village should, if they see Carl Fortner, take the time and say thank you. I don't think a lot of people really appreciate what goes into trying to get all of that information put together, get it there on time, and making sure that all the Ts are crossed and Is are dotted. So Carl, on behalf of the board, I'd like to thank you. The other thing that I've been brought to my attention is the letterhead, or this, I don't know what the right thing is, but the signature on, we used to have a different, other than just, what is this?
The logo,
What is it?
the logo.
The logo, thank you, that's a good word, thank you. The logo used to be kind of a rural setting, you know, a marsh, pumpkins and all the rest of that stuff, and that seems to have vanished. And I'm wondering how that came to pass and if there is any particular reason for it. So those people have asked me about it, and then I went looking for it, and they are right, I haven't seen it. But I also like that logo that we had. That's all I have.
The little bird, the crane.
Not the crane, but this one has got the,
It's right there. It's right there, real big,
there it is, on the wall, that thing, yes.
the town logo.
Trustee Dashick.
I would like to thank the residents for taking the information that was put out to them concerning the incorporation of the town of Vernon into a village and recognizing what a serious need there was for them to get out to vote and make that decision. It's a good decision, and I'm happy that, and very proud of them for doing that.
Village President report. I would also like to thank Kurt for all those years of public service. It was a heck of a run, if you think about how many years. I'd like to thank the residents who have also provided many kind words to me regarding the incorporation and this board. It was a lot of work, well worth it. We got to the finish line, and I'm very grateful that the residents saw it, you know, the right way, to the tune of 91%, and we had a 42% turnout roughly which was a pretty good turnout for this type of election compared to others in the statewide. And it really is historical in the town of Vernon, which was established way back before we became a state in Wisconsin, and to become a village, it's a better form of government, more advantageous, so I'm looking forward to it. It's gonna be work here. We've just started talking about, things that we need to do, zoning codes, the charter ordinance, but we'll get through it, and I think it'll be time well spent, so. Also on the finance committee, we'll put, I know residents have been complaining about the chargeback, so we should probably put that on that agenda too, so. That's my report. Clerk Treasurer, do you have?
Just echo too, I wanted, have worked with Kurt years past, currently for another 7 years. Wanted to thank him for his 40 years of dedicated service. He's gonna be deeply, deeply missed by the guys in the DPW department. He's got people in the village that just idolize him for what he does for them, especially on his stormwater cutting, and he'll be deeply missed, and I know we all wish him well in his retirement. Just wanted to reiterate, there are absolutely no peddler's permits issued by either the town board in the past, recently, or the village board. So if anybody comes to your door peddling, please call the sheriff's dispatch number at 262-446-5070. And then also, just reiterate, if people see anything suspicious, please don't call the town. Not that we don't want your phone calls, but we really want you to call the Waukesha County Dispatch. If you see anything suspicious, they want you to make sure that you call them right away so they can hop on any kind of suspicious activity. And that's it, Mr. President.
Thank you. Let's move to finances, and like I say, some of this will be moved to that special meeting, but accounts payable we need to do. So we've got batch 2020-06018 for, in the amount of 76,555.83. I had some, which I think I can bring up with Clerk Treasurer, some questions on the Foth bill, not the amounts, but whether they should be charged back or not. I don't know that we can approve the payable, but we can maybe.
Is that the one that, you're talking about, I thought you were talking about.
Foth. No, Foth, yeah. Well, that's a different issue.
Oh, that should not be charged back.
Oh, should be charged back, I thought. I don't know if we need to do it just to approve the bill, but there was a couple of items. You're going there now. And maybe it's just me understanding the bill more than anything. So if you look at their bill, you got the cover page, then you've got chargeback page, zoning, that's okay, residential, general planning, but on the next page of, after general planning, there's a couple of things here. Board of Appeals conference call, I'm not sure if that shouldn't be charged back, and town back, okay, that was just that one on there. That Board of Appeals conference call, if that should be a charge back. And then go another page, the cell tower, that's fine. General engineering, there's some grading plans reviewed with people's names, should those be charged back?
Oh, the 200,
Yeah.
yeah, that is.
Yeah, I wish these had, did these have page numbers on?
Yeah, 220, yeah, we could, yeah, we can.
$200.20.
Yeah, that should be charged back, that is a charge.
Okay. There's 3 of them on that page, and I think that was it when I reviewed the bill.
Yeah, that 46 is not a charge back, and neither is 2,900.
Right, that's not either, I don't think. Right, that's our road project.
Yeah.
Right, that's road project, that's the town's. So I could readily approve the bill, it's just getting the chargebacks done properly for those items.
Yeah, when he did not, if you look at, he put that in general plan.
Right.
Then
Yeah,
he didn't put it in a charge back, so I I can't adjust his bill. I feel that 220 is that for that engineer, absolutely that will be charged back.
Okay,
But when he does, I don't know what you wanna do about that, because he has it in the general fund. He doesn't have it in the general fund.
right. Do we
And I
make him
was assuming
ask
that
him to
was a-
reissue his bill?
Yeah, you have to, because I would not take that bill and.
Oh, and just say this is a chargeback, he needs to reissue that page or something?
Yeah, just like that's where you got boundary map and.
Right. So those two pages need to, those two pages just need to be reissued
Right.
as chargeback instead of general engineering,
Right.
or general planning as the case may be.
And I think, like you said, the $200.20, we absolutely will charge that back to the.
Right,
Road
person
project.
operating.
Yeah.
right,
Yep,
okay, and then, yeah, the Board of Appeals conference call, I would have thought that would have been a chargeback, because that was on a BOZ matter.
yeah, see, that's where it's hard for me, but, what part is
Right,
part of the town doing business and what's,
right,
you know.
and maybe that's one of those
maybe
where,
A staff meeting to talk, remember we.
You're right.
Said we'd talk about that?
right. Right, in the staff meeting, I think we're gonna set up September, or July,
I think it's something we got
yeah, right,
23rd, July 23rd was the staff meeting.
right. Yeah, we gotta get these, keep these dates. And then the only other questions I had were some sales tax on fire department personnel. Nothing you can do about it,
No.
except the only one I thought maybe we could do something is the embroidery me. I remember that where they were not supposed, this is for,
We're supposed to tell them.
yep, and they even have the customer listed on their invoice as the Vernon Fire Department.
Right,
So I thought if there's one that we could adjust, it would be that one.
yeah.
The other one's not going to.
Not Amazon, that's, it's
Right, they're not-
impossible to.
Right. It's not worth it. So, but that one, you see that one? He's
Yeah.
done.
I can ask if they've already paid for this.
Did they?
Oh, yeah, the firefighter, yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought maybe we were just paying off this invoice because it said
No.
Vernon Fire Department on
No.
top of it.
But what I should do is call embroidery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that we have called them before.
We told them not to
And
charge
told 'em.
tax, yeah, that's true,
Yeah, you remember from, I think it was
some time ago.
some time ago, one of these, when we're going through the invoice, and they then later said, oh, yeah, yeah. And
Well,
then,
the lieutenant too, because he's gonna let the kids know that
Yeah,
right,
that's one vendor you can go and not pay tax.
and not pay tax. And they have our tax ID
should have.
number and all of that.
They have the certificates, yeah.
Yep. Okay, then I noticed, of course, this request with the health insurance premium for the life, it's not in the payables.
I didn't cut the check because I didn't know what you wanted to do.
So, I mean, we do have a finance committee meeting to walk through it. I can't understand it. I don't know what he's saying.
But it's in with the manual checks. There is a manual check.
Okay.
That's on the APs. That's
Okay.
$127,000 for, and then that other one, I did not write the check because I didn't feel it was appropriate for you to do that. So your batch number would be right, and then you'd have $127 for your manual check, but the other one, if you want to do it on July 2nd, that request that I didn't write the check.
Or we can do it tonight. I didn't understand what he was saying. All I could do is follow his, I think we charged them the right amount of insurance premium.
Yeah,
I think, so he wouldn't be entitled to it, but I'm, obviously, if we overcharge an employee for health insurance, we should pay him back,
Right,
no question about it. So to me, the question is, well, did we overcharge him? And I can't see it, but maybe there's a good explanation, I don't know. So we could pick that up on, I mean, we're gonna meet next Thursday, it's a finance committee, we could pick it up then.
Yeah.
Cause I know we're getting a little longer and longer here. But it's not in the AP, so we can approve the APs. And you're gonna check the chargebacks and get a new invoice.
So is the total
Okay.
still correct?
yes.
The 76?
I've got a couple,
Do you have something then?
yes.
Okay,
On, it's Spectrum Enterprise. Karen, the number that you had written was 187.70, and on the summary, it's 187.20. There's a 50-cent difference. It's the fifth one down. And it's Spectrum Enterprise. There's a bunch of spectrums in there, so.
Would have to be approved by the amount that is based on the check.
Well, you put down 187.70, and the payable shows 187.20, so it's a 50-cent variance.
I see. Oh, okay, so the check was cut for 187.20 is what you were saying? And the invoice was 187.70.
70.
So we underpaid 50
But
cents?
the 277 we don't owe. So,
Actually, you probably overpaid that one.
right,
So we're gonna have a 227
you'll have a
balance.
credit.
Yeah. Okay,
And,
Fighting with them about that 277 for 3 months.
okay.
well,
Okay.
and then the other one is just further down on a model Ford. They put tax in on that invoice. And they've got 516, but I can't, I
Which one is
apologize.
it, Fred?
Pardon me?
Which?
A model? And I can't find the invoice. Oh, here it is.
A model Ford. What the heck?
Yeah, sales tax.
$5, I would give you that check. Take out the 516.
Yes. And then, Karen, this is just a general question. EP Mailing Solutions, what is that? EP Mailing, is that, sorry, FP.
It's the rental on the postage machine.
Ah, thank you. And did we agree that, or understand that Freen Riley and Herkert, Joshua Herkert, that we can't do anything with the tax on those two?
No, it's been paid.
But it's been paid, but the tax, is there anything we can do on that, or is no?
No, they paid that. I mean, they paid that out
The,
of their pocket.
the individual?
I can call and lawyer me, but we can't do anything about it at this meeting. You have to reimburse the employer, like you said, when you owe people money.
Yeah, but just to let them know that, you know,
Well,
we're
the fire department should be doing that.
telling them that this is for the fire department.
Yep, that's what I got.
And you don't, oh, I'm sorry, maybe not done.
Yeah,
I'm fine.
you're fine? Other questions from the board? Okay. So what did you get, 76,
55067, is that what you got?
that's what I got. So a motion to approve batch 2020-06018 in the dollar amount of $76,550.67.
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
Second?
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion carries. Oh, you're opposing, sorry.
Yep.
4-1, motion carries. Trustee Wildy, opposed, right? Okay, manual checks. So we'll make them, this is for the insurance, right? Right. So we need a motion to approve manual check, one manual check, right, in the dollar amount. How many manual checks are? Everybody else is looking for it too.
very, very end, after the healthcare question,
Yeah,
and then after that it says manual check.
I know, I read it. I read it, I know it's in there. Yep. Right, so I'll make a motion to approve the manual check in the amount of 179.76.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. The ratification of previous accounts payable, we could do this at the Finance Committee. You know, these are all the bills that,
Yeah, there's a bunch of,
that I and trustee Dashick went through and signed during our emergency, so we'll need to get them all ratified. So we could do these on June. I know there's a bunch of batches there down, but we do need to, ACH, we can do those on June too, or next week as well. Update on the audit report, we'll have Howard in, we'll do that on June 25. The AR aging report, like we said, we'll do that, June 25. We have outstanding invoices. I don't know if the residents are actually gonna come in, but at least we should identify and yeah, talk about it on how to best to resolve those. We did have that discussion, I think, last January, or maybe December.
And so you bring it back after you talk.
Right, but then we were stuck. Right, and I did talk to some, but they were going to provide information, and they haven't in one instance. And I think one we settled, got a payment plan on, and, which I think is the next installment's coming up, right? Yep. So that can be on the June 25 as well. LifeQuest account, that's just an update, June 25. Yep, all the rest, I and J, June 25, right. So now we're on to minutes. March 19th.
make a motion to approve, March 19th, town, at that time, the town of Vernon board minutes.
That time,
Good one.
you don't get fined for that.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Abstain.
Yeah. One abstention. Trustee Solani was not on the board. April 14th, village board minutes. This was our special meeting we had to call to set the referendum for incorporation. So
Make
I'll
a motion to approve.
I'll second that motion.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain? Were you on the board?
I was there.
Okay, no abstentions. Motion carried unanimously. June 12th, board minutes.
Yeah, I've just a couple of corrections on the June 12th. It's on the,
Yeah, I see there.
yeah, on the motions.
Can we get the corrections sent over to the
Yeah,
clerk
have
treasurer?
Karen
And we'll
just-
put them back on a.
For another
future
night, yeah.
Agenda.
Yeah, because there's a lot.
There's a,
Yeah, we can put it on June 5th.
yeah, there's two or three, Karen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You don't have to go through it.
Yeah, you don't have to go. Yeah.
no, good,
We'll get them fixed up.
okay.
Next village meeting dates, June 22nd, as we've discussed, joint plan, commission, village board, for amendments to, on event barns, 6:30 at Big Bend Elementary School. June 25th, we scheduled finance committee. What time did we say, 1? 1:30, 1 PM. June 29th, joint village board and plan commission public hearing on cell tower on Artesian Avenue. And that is also scheduled for Big Bend Elementary, starting at 6:30 PM. Our regular village board meetings in July are July 2nd and July 16th, starting at 7 PM. Might have a plan commission meeting in there too, July 8th. And then we've got open books starting July 17th. Call the clerk treasurer office for an appointment. Board of review is set I was the only person that showed up and adjourned the meeting to, the other day. Adjourned the meeting to Monday, August 24th at Village Hall here at 7 PM. Yeah, I was looking at them when I said it.
Were we supposed to be there?
Yeah,
For some of these meetings, could you let me know, I don't want to put a burden on anybody. I know I'm supposed to be at the town board, planning commission, but staff meetings, yes. But every once in a while, one of these meetings comes up, and I don't know if I should be there or not.
oh.
I
okay.
saw the same thing, and I didn't know if I was supposed to be here or
Yeah,
not.
and I
I
just,
think on the Board of
Board of
Review,
Review.
we just told people to stay home. We were just gonna adjourn it anyway, so. It was,
okay, but I
Well,
guess.
good
that-
job, Carl.
you know,
Yeah. But that's one of the things that I'm glad Jim had the same problem that I
Right,
did.
yeah.
Because I don't want to miss anything.
Yeah,
And
well, we
even-
try to get them on the agenda,
No,
but yeah.
that's a great idea, yes.
Even like the staff meetings, I don't know when they are, you know.
Well, we haven't had any scheduled, that's why I pushed that date around
Yeah.
to see who could make.
Oh, okay,
So now
Right.
we'll do, an actual, we'll put it on there,
okay.
because everybody replied, well, most everybody replied saying they could make it. Staff and school.
Right.
Can I make a motion to adjourn?
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 We're adjourned. 10:07.